Welcome back to another edition of the Rodcast. We like to call it the Freak Flag Feel Good, Fake It Till You Make It. Ric Flair, woo! 512 Friday edition of the Rodcast. Thank you for joining us. A lot to get into on the show today. We'll talk about big news in the NFL. There is a new blockbuster contract to discuss that reset the quarterback market. And yes, that means it will have an effect on the Dallas Cowboys Dak Prescott contract negotiation. So we'll talk about that too coming up here in the first segment of the show. We'll also preview what is left of the NBA Finals. It's looking bleak, very bleak for the Dallas Mavs, down 0-3 to the Boston Celtics. So the fat lady hasn't sung just yet, but she's certainly warming up a little bit. So we'll talk about that. We'll preview the effect. Also, we'll hear from Luka Doncic a little bit as well coming up here in the first segment. Also, we'll go behind the burnt orange curtain. We'll talk about something that I didn't get into enough of yesterday. We'll talk about the premier playmakers on defense for the Longhorns, and there's a certain metric that'll give us insight into the premier playmakers on defense for Texas coming up this season. We'll talk about that and talk some Texas football. We go behind the burnt orange curtain. We gotta cyber stalk our ex a little bit here on the show too. I know we're going into the SEC, but the Big 12 considering some wild things that we must discuss. So usually we don't like to talk about our ex that much on the show, but we gotta talk about the ex today. All right, every now and then you ever see your ex on social media, you go, damn, that's some wild. What are you? What are you doing? And that's what we're going to do today. All right, we'll do that, talking about the Big 12 a little bit. We also have Rod's rant of the day. We'll get into a surprising ranking. Pro Football Focus ranked the best secondaries in college football for the upcoming season. And I am pleasantly and optimistically surprised where the Longhorns are ranked, that the Longhorns are even ranked among the best secondaries in the country. So we will discuss that when we go into Rod's rant. Coming up next hour, we have the usual favorites, of course. We have the topic for the Big Fat Poll of the Day. We'll have the What the Facts, What the Stats segment. We also get into Off the Record and Who Said That, all your usual favorites. Before we do, let's introduce you to the rest of the crew. He's one of the hardest working members of the ARN family. Got a hustler spirit, period. Not sure what he's paid, but I'm pretty damn sure the man is underpaid. Ain't no 401k for this hustler, and he's a hustle man of many talents. My friend, co-host, and neighbor, we like to call him the Idealionaire, is Patrick Davis, y'all. What's going on, brother?
How you doing, man? It is a Friday morning. It's always good on a Friday morning. I did wake up and I'm feeling a little under the weather, and I always feel like anytime that I start to feel under the weather on like a Friday or the weekend, because you never want to feel bad on the weekend. I always think about when I was a kid, and there was one time that I got sick during the week, and I missed like basically almost an entire week of school, like 3 or 4 days of school. And then it was coming up like a 3-day weekend or something. And on that Friday, like 2 hours before school would let out, I felt better. And I remember having to like mentally figure out how I could tell my parents that I started to feel better without making it seem like I'd faked the whole thing. Because it was way too convenient. And now anytime on like a Friday or Saturday I feel bad, I'm like, it's making up for the fact that I felt better like right there.
It scarred you.
It scarred it just forever, because now I'm like, every time I'm like, no, it's because I got, and it was 100% honest. It wasn't faking it, and then I just got better right before. But you were just like, it was like, I remember my mom being at the end of that. She'd be like, if you were not like in bed for 4 days straight, I would not believe you at all. But hey
man, it just worked out that way.
It just worked out that way. But now I always feel like it's retribution and my comeuppance now that when I
got that shame and guilt about it still.
anytime on a Friday when you wake up and you're like not feeling good, that's what I get for when I was like 12. That's what happens.
Yeah, I think that's how some religions work. Yeah, it's that guilt and shame. I don't want you to feel that.
Let me tell you about my co-host. He's a proud alumni of DBU. He's got more papers than Dunder Mifflin and watches more film than Siskel and Ebert. He is the new Rod, father of Boston Sports Radio, Mr. Rod Babers.
Thank you for the intro, brother. I appreciate it. And I hope you feel better too, man. I know that does suck, actually, especially be feeling under the weather when the weekend is here. Because you've got to power through something, right? I guess you got the weekend to get better.
Yes.
But man, you also want to enjoy your weekend too. And now you got to deal with the battle of the sickness.
We'll see.
We'll
go home. We'll just go home and rest it up on Friday, and then see if we'll be fine by Saturday.
Man.
Yeah, that's it.
Sleep. Honestly, one of the main reasons people just get sick is because they just don't get sleep.
Yeah.
You don't get enough of it. So just try to get rest. At least you got the weekend for that. That's what the weekend is for. So thank God for the weekend. Also 512 Friday. We'll get into that a little bit later on with my favorite musically themed days of the week. Patrick wears a lot of hats. He also will give us the horn headlines here momentarily. We'll get into that too coming up a little bit later on in the show. But like I said, yeah, a lot of random topics that we'll get into on the show. That like I said, the biggest probably being the Trevor Lawrence deal, because I think it is going to have a direct effect. Well, we know it's going to have a direct effect on the Dak Prescott negotiations with the Cowboys for a lot of different reasons. So we'll discuss that. We'll start off there. We start off with the finals, but unfortunately, a lot of people have lost their interest in the NBA finals because being down 0-3, it's not. I don't think it's even, it is possible, but it is not probable at all.
No, at this point, if we come back on Monday and it's 3-2,
or come back and win.
Yeah, if we come back on Monday and it's 3-2, then you can go, okay, now we can discuss it a little bit more. But the odds are we're coming back on Monday discussing the Celtics as champions, whether it's tonight or whether it's Sunday.
Yes. Yeah, they're just trying to pride. It's about pride at this point. Do you want to be swept? And I haven't done the research. I'm sure it's out there. Pat, you probably already have the stat, probably for your horn headlines or something. But I don't know how many teams have been swept in the finals.
You know me well enough. It's in the horn headlines.
Okay, there you go. You know what? Then we should just start there and go and get to it. All right, let's not waste any time before I start spoiling some of the horn headlines. Let's get updated, educated, and informed on all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the horn headlines.
All right, your horn headline is brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars have agreed on a 5-year, $275 million contract extension on Thursday. The contract includes $200 million guaranteed and now puts Lawrence under contract until 2030. The $55 million average salary in the deal ties him with Joe Burrow for the top mark in that category in the NFL. In the NBA, the Celtics can win the NBA championship tonight in a sweep over the Mavs in Game 4 of the Finals. No team has ever come back from a 3-0 deficit in the NBA playoffs to win the series. The Mavs will try to avoid being the 10th team in NBA history to be swept in the finals and the first since the Cavs in 2018. In Major League Baseball, the Astros will begin their series with the Tigers this evening, sending Hunter Brown to the mound, hoping to get a solid performance from the young pitcher against an early leader for the ALC Young, Tariq Skubal, who is 8-1 on the season with a 1.92 ERA. And the Rangers won their series with the Dodgers after a 3-1 victory last night. Wyatt Langford knocked in 2 runs in the game, and the Rangers pitching was solid, with Lorenzen making it 7 innings, only allowing 1 run on a solo homer, and the bullpen getting 6 strikeouts in the 2 innings pitched. The Rangers now move on to a big divisional series with the Mariners this weekend. And that is your horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the horn headlines. All right, let's get right to it. Like I said, we have some sound from Luca, actually, that I want to get to when we talk about the NBA Finals a little bit. But let's talk about this Trevor Lawrence deal. It's a big deal. I'm a little surprised by it. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm surprised that Trevor Lawrence, in terms of annual average salary, so we can get into some of the details of his new contract. But if you look at average annual salary, his new contract is going to tie him with the Joe Burrow with the top contract per year for quarterback annual salary. It's $55 million per year. That's Joe Burrow. That's the Joe Burrow number. And you would, even though it's usually kind of based on just precedent, whatever franchise quarterback was paid before you make as much as them. But usually there's somewhat of a slotting. That, all right, this guy went to a Super Bowl. This guy did this. They may go to the stats, or it may go, to your accolades and achievements, whatever. This is why this is a great contract for Dak Prescott, because for Trevor Lawrence to get a salary tied with Joe Burrow, and Joe Burrow's going to, so I think the big, if you want to separator for Joe Burrow, why maybe it's an escalator or whatever that puts him at the top of that quarterback salary scale, is because he went to a Super Bowl as a young quarterback on his rookie deal. So that now the upside for Joe, and he was a number 1 pick. So the upside for Joe Burrow is immense. Same thing for Trevor Lawrence. He was a number 1 pick, but he hasn't proven as much as a Joe Burrow has. And I think for him to get that kind of deal for Dak Prescott, who hasn't gone as far in the playoffs as Joe Burrow statistically, Dak Prescott has done some pretty impressive things, and he's elite in some of those categories statistically. But if you're talking about just achievement, Dak Prescott can make the argument, oh, I've achieved way more than a Trevor Lawrence. And statistically also, I mean, he's better than Trevor Lawrence too. I mean, he was in the MVP discussion. He was second in the MVP voting. He was second team All-Pro this year. To me, this means Dak Prescott's going to get at least $55 million. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah, and I mean,
right?
and this is a team signing a quarterback early, understanding that in 2028, they're going to have a pretty good deal on a quarterback. And so they know we're going to sign him a year before it comes up, so we'll get ahead of it. So we know that when we're paying him, there'll probably be Dak Prescott's deal will be in there by then, and then there could be another deal or two before we even get to the 2025 or 2026, whatever it is, 25 or 6 when this starts. We'll be able to have a couple more deals going, and it won't be crazy by year 3 of this contract. It'll seem like a reasonable deal. And we get that versus going back into quarterback hell where we don't know who our quarterback's going to be. We don't have the face of the franchise. We don't have any of those things. Let's just sign the deal now, get it through. We can plan our free agency more. We can plan what we're going to do and build our team and all of that. It makes sense what the Jaguars are doing, but it just is another move for Jerry where it's you keep waiting for someone to sign like a team-friendly deal or something to happen that's going to not show what we all could have predicted was going to happen, which is the money keeps going up, and it just keeps getting more and more. And Dak again holds all the cards. So this is another piece of, you're negotiating of, well, you're no Joe Burrow, you're no Patrick Mahomes, so you got to be paid less than them is kind of out the window with Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, you just if you're based on precedent, which is what these contracts are usually based on, you're going to lose that argument. If you try to make that argument, because Trevor Lawrence would be the counter. And it's a 5-year, $275 million extension, $200 million of it guaranteed. And like I said, Dak Prescott and I'm trying to think of other quarter. Listen, the Mahomes extension. Mahomes is going to do something here soon. But there's no way the Chiefs can continue to disrespect Patrick Mahomes like this as a quarter. I mean, he's a 10th highest paid QB now.
No, and and Patrick Mahomes also needs to realize that there was probably going to be a point with this ownership where if it starts to go downhill, like Andy Reid retires and so they just won't care and won't pay him. And they'll just be like, that's
a possibility.
You got your years left. We don't care. We're not winning. So you're not paid for past shit. We don't care.
No, he's got a 10-year deal. Well, he signed a 10-year deal. So they do have control of him for a long time. I'm sure at one point, Brett Veach is arguably the best GM in the NFL, one of the best GMs. He won't let that happen. What you're talking about, Patrick, which is kind of the doomsday scenario, ownership to go, well, you mean he signed a 10-year deal. We got control of him. We're good. And it's like, no. At this point, he's on the verge of being dropped out of the top 10. By the time the season starts, he'll be out of the top 10 highest paid quarterbacks, because I think Tua and Jordan Love will get paid, and they'll get paid more. Honestly, guys, if Tua may sign an extension and get paid more or as much as Patrick Mahomes, think about that. Just because of the way the quarterback market works, because the next franchise quarterback up, whoever's due for a contract extension or a new contract, or they sign a new deal, free agency, whatever it may be, via trade, if you're a franchise quarterback, that's just what the market, right? It's what the market demands, period. Like it's the market, that it's not necessarily the negotiation. I don't even know if there is much of a negotiation. You can play hardball. If you play hardball, you have to be prepared to go without your franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
And there's nobody in the NFL, really no organization, maybe it's the Cowboys, that are willing to play hardball to the extent. We did see the Ravens. They played some hardball, but they still ended up giving them $52 million a year.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, we played hardball, but that was a real tough negotiation for a quarterback and a team, and that's usually as tense as it gets. And for the Cowboys, I mean, you're right, Patrick. They should have gotten this done much earlier. Now in the situation, you got to pay them at least $55 million, and if you're Dak, you'll probably be trying to get close to $60 million. And if you're the Cowboys, sign it now. Like I said before, Patrick Mahomes and Brett Veach decide to rework something, and then they reset the quarterback market again when they can restructure his deal somehow and give him some more money. Honestly, they're smart. They'll probably just do it with cash bonuses for Patrick Mahomes, but their ownership is cheap. Go back to Patrick's point. Yeah. See, so they could do that, but the ownership is cheap. They're right now they're in some kind of dispute with the local government there because they want a new stadium and they're threatening to leave.
Yep.
Threatening to leave Kansas City if they don't get taxpayer funding on their new stadium. They're like, we might get out, we might leave. And we know they were voted on by their own damn players for having the worst facilities and the worst ownership. So Patrick's got a good point about their own. I think Brett Veach he's the the middleman between that, and I think he's got to be the one to say, okay, guys, we can't let Kirk Cousins and Kyler Murray make more than Patrick Mahomes. Justin, right? That's crazy, but that's the quarterback market. It's like Austin real estate market. I can't explain it to you. I don't know why that lot there, right there on the east side, is worth $2 million, but it is. Right? That's the market. I can't tell you exactly why it's worth that, but that's what they say the lot is worth. Boom. That's the quarterback market in a nutshell. Like Austin real estate. I can't explain why it costs so damn much. I really can't, but it does. Period. And yes, today's price is not yesterday's price. You got to pay it.
Yeah.
You can complain about yesterday's price all you want and today's price and how it's not yesterday's price all you want, but you still got to pay today's price.
Yeah.
That's the way it is.
And I know, and that's the thing is, Dak Prescott really needs Patrick Mahomes to sign that contract because once he does, there is no more conversation about a team-friendly deal. There's no more conversation about any of that. Because right now, you can at least look at that and say, well, he signed, and you go, well, when he signed that, we all knew it was going to become team-friendly, but it was still, he was the highest paid quarterback at the time he signed it.
Yes, he was.
And then it was such a long deal that it eventually everyone went over it, which is why you sign your quarterbacks early, because you know the market will keep going up and eventually they'll slide down. And it's also why quarterbacks don't want to start. Most players don't want to sign long-term deals until they get older. And then when someone's, 35, they'll say, well, I'll sign a 7-year deal now because I'm not going to play that long. And it's going to be
Mahomes signed the deal in 2020. So it's up in 2030. Like 2020.
Exactly. So they understand, and so you can say the team friendly stuff in for a while, but that the reality is they know they're negotiating. They know there's a back end on some of this stuff. There's most likely some under the table things happening of something. And plus he makes a ton of money in advertising because he's on the champions, which is as much as Dak can make money being part of the Dallas Cowboys. If they're not winning Super Bowls, you're not going to be in as many ads.
Yeah.
And Patrick Mahomes will be in a ton of ads because he's a Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP, league MVP, and all of that. So he's going to make a ton of money where he doesn't necessarily need it as much. But I agree with you. I think they're going to re-up him. And if I'm Jerry Jones, I really would prefer to have the Dak Prescott deal signed before that happens.
Yeah, I would too, because I think out of respect they may decide to make him the highest paid QB per annual salary, and then that would obviously top 55. I think they'd probably just go to a nice round figure of 60.
Seems about right.
And then Dak, I guess it would make it easy on Jerry. He's talking about, I need to see more leaves fall. And then it's almost like the CeeDee Lamb situation. At least you know exactly where he's slotted. He's between 55 and 60. And just like CeeDee, we know CeeDee's not going to surpass Justin Jefferson. So he'll definitely be,
but it's that same concept.
Him and Amon-Ra and St. Brown.
Yeah, if you had paid Dak before, 3 weeks ago, he's between 50 and 55, right?
Yep.
And now we're talking that if you let the Patrick Mahomes, that we know now it's 55.
It's 55.
It's 55 right now.
It's 55 now. Yeah.
And then if you let the Patrick Mahomes deal go, it goes 55 to 60.
Yes.
And that same thing with CeeDee Lamb. We said it was going to be around. We thought it was going to be around 30, a little bit more than 30, and now we're getting up closer to 35. Mm-hmm. And you're like, I get it, but you're costing yourself per year several $1 million on both these contracts. Neither one of them is going the way you want it to go. And so if you would have signed the original one, you'd already have a better deal by now. And I get there's contract stuff, there's cap stuff you have to deal with. I get all of that. But the waiting on it to, just if it's for motivation or whatever else, it's going to, you're paying for that motivation at this point.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I guess there's still some other contracts, but they won't be I don't know. You could. I don't know. Jordan Love and Tua, I guess, or some other young quarterbacks that could end up getting
man,
extensions.
if those guys make over 50.
I think they're going to make as much as Mahomes because Mahomes is at 45.
Oh, no, they're going to make more than Mahomes. That's what I say. But if they're over 50.
Oh, then that's crazy. I don't know what Miami's going to do about that. The Packers are more likely to pay Jordan Love than Miami is to pay Tua, just because of the injury risk and background.
Well, he's skinny now.
And I don't know if that's a good thing. I like my quarterbacks a little. I like my quarterbacks a little thick, little. You know what I mean? That's what, even with Quinn, right? We talk about the Quinn. That Quinn's a little frail. We wanted Quinn to gain weight, to put on some mass a little bit. I want my quarterbacks a little thick, man, to deal with the wear and tear of being a quarterback. But yeah, I mean, I know he learned was it jiu-jitsu with some type of mixed martial arts to help him fall better, so he would fall in a more graceful manner, so he won't hurt himself falling. Hey man, whatever it takes. And you know what? Whatever it was, it worked. I think more it's the system, because they had one of the quickest times to throw in the NFL. Like, they got the ball out quick. First read, wide window, RPO based on. Honestly, Quinn would fit really well in that system. It's not. I mean, it's a lot of what kind of Sark does with Quinn, with a lot of deception tactics in your passing game and first reads. Wide open, schemed open first reads for your quarterback. Anyway, but I digress. But still, those guys, Tua, Jordan Love, that person, I said, and watch out for the Mahomes. They cannot allow Mahomes. The Chiefs, I swear, the Chiefs have the best bargains in football. Now, they just decided, didn't they just do something with Kelce?
They just paid Kelce. They made him the top paid tight end, I think. Yeah.
They just did. All right. So they just paid that bill. But before that, guys, Kelce was arguably the second best bargain in value in all of the NFL, because he was giving you wide receiver one production, and you had to pay, and they were paying him like top 5 tight end money. And it's like, well, he's giving you what? You know how much? We just talked about it. How much are the wide receiver ones getting? $30 million a year, 30 million a year. You got, and this guy's giving you that kind of production, and yet you got to pay him like a top 5 tight end. But it was a bargain of the century. And then you got Patrick Mahomes, who signed a 10-year deal. People are trying to sign shorter deals so they can get to the back to the free agent market quicker, so they can make more money. This guy gave you a 10-year deal. You have 10 years of control over the best quarterback in the history of the game.
Dak Prescott signed his last contract had not only a no trade clause, but a no franchise tag clause, so that he could go to free agency easier.
So he can get to free agency quicker. Yeah.
And had that that was, and Patrick Mahomes was like, no, it's okay. Just give me 10 years, give me stability, and I'll be fine.
I'll be fine. And now he's out of it. He's basically bumped out of the top 10 highest paid quarterbacks in the league. And he's had the best start for any pro athlete in major American teams.
He's hanging out with Daniel Jones. The contract, like, oh, come on, man.
Yes, you're right. That is crazy. I mean, it shows you he's an unselfish. They got guys who are kind of unselfish. Like even Andy Reid was underpaid. I mean, they just paid Andy Reid. Andy Reid was honestly, he was kind of the middle class of paid coaches in the NFL, and now he just got paid. They paid Spagnuolo. They just paid Spags too. They're literally they're just paying a lot of these guys.
They just paid Chris Jones.
You just paid Chris Jones.
They paid Chris Jones, but they said Snead, sorry, you're the best DB. You're one of the best DBs. You're got to go. Tyreek Hill, sorry, we're not paying you. Got to go.
They are. I don't know, because I don't know where all the extra money go. I guess now, but listen, paying Andy Reid doesn't count toward the salary cap. Paying Spags don't count toward the salary cap. And what they gave Kelce, I think a lot of it was just straight cash up front and bonuses. And I got to go look at it, and guaranteed money. They just wanted to basically say kind of a thank you, because we know he's about to retire. I think that's what's going on there. They already know, like, he's about to retire. We just want to show our appreciation, help, because he just recently said, remember they asked him about the load, right, in usage and target rates for him as he's getting older, and he was like, "No, bring it on. Bring it on. I still want it. I want as much as possible." I think he knows, like, no, this is my last run. We don't get just three-peat. Yeah. And then I'm gonna pop the question to the biggest pop star in the world, and then we're gonna ride off into the sunset, at least for the time being, at least for a couple of years, and then we'll probably get divorced, like most celebrity couples. But that's okay, because love is love. And with Patrick Mahomes, though, it's just, he's fine with this. Like, he has no ego about it. And that's why the Kansas City Chiefs are some lucky mofos, man. Because their superstars don't demand top dollar.
He's going to get an ego when Andy Reid retires and Travis Kelce retires, and he's just sitting there by himself in the locker room. And look,
Right.
he'll have
Well,
Xavier.
him and Xavier Worthy. Xavier
Yeah.
Worthy right there. Hey, what's up, Pat?
Yeah.
What's up, Pat?
He
Hey,
got
Pat, what's going on?
he's
Man?
gonna have X-Man, but still he's gonna be like, that is a lot to lose.
That is a lot. No, you're right. Well, Spags, we talked about this. I think they're playing. I don't. Spags is pretty old too. I don't know when Andy Reid's going to retire when he wants to. But if you could, hell, man, Spags has been a head coach, and you could make the argument that he was a head coach so early in his career that not early in his career, but earlier in his career, that now he's probably learned a lot. And as long as he hires the right OC, you can just let him be kind of the head coach of the defense. Team knows you can keep some of the continuity. I don't know, just an idea. Throwing it out there.
Yeah, Spags is
I like
Spags.
Spags.
Spags is 64.
Yes, that's older. Yeah, that's pretty old. I just tell Spags might be ready to hang it up soon too. Yeah, they might lose a lot in the next few. I know he just signed, so Spags ain't going nowhere in the next 2 or 3 years. But when you're looking at it down the line, I mean, him and Andy Reid, these guys are getting older, and you may have, like you said, most of the nucleus around Patrick Mahomes in the next 3 years. It may be gone with Kelsey, with Reed, and with Spags. Be interesting to see what Brett. Then it'll be just him and Brett Veach. Brett Veach will be trying to bring the next great head coach, the next great offensive mind. I mean, but think about it. If you could coach Patrick, he's gonna be able to choose any head coach pretty much in college or the NFL. I can say any, but most of them that he wants, because he'd be like, listen, the attraction is, you want to coach Patrick Mahomes? Do you want to coach the best quarterback in the league? Huh? Or you want to coach the guy who of the guy you're coaching, or you want to coach this dude? I think we all want to coach that dude. I'm gonna win some Super Bowls with that dude. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And by then he's gonna know Andy Reid's offense. He's gonna be like Tom Brady. He's gonna come with an offense with him. Like he already know the offense by then. He'll be like, no, man, I actually can teach you the damn offense. We can do that. We'll just run my offense. So you ain't really got to come in and bring your system either. You just got to come in and bring kind of a culture and make sure Pat likes you. As long as Pat Mahomes likes you, you're gonna be good. Money. I'm telling you, I do it. That's that's an attractive situation. Anyway, too many hypotheticals. It's Friday. All right, let's get to some Texas football conversation. We'll go behind the burnt orange curtain next segment, and we'll talk about the best playmakers on defense for Texas. I've been doing some deep diving, and I'll give you who the premier playmakers are on defense for Texas. It's a metric about havoc rate that'll tell us that. We'll get into that coming up when we go behind the burnt orange curtain next segment. This is the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get to some Texas football conversation. It is so obvious that our phones are listening to us. We were just talking about Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. I mean, it just came up on my timeline. Them on their Super Bowl, getting their Super Bowl rings at a party. I swear, just rolled up them. I just opened my app, open X, boom. It was the first. It's like one
First
of the
thing.
first three things that came up on my timeline. It's that these things are definitely listening to us. I mean, they know
Yeah.
it's so obvious at this. They ain't even trying to hide it anymore.
No.
They don't even care.
No.
They
No, because they'll tell you it's for your own benefit.
Yeah,
They're like, it's good for you. Now you have this, and we're going to help you out because you were asking about this, and you're like, yeah, but I prefer a fake sense of privacy, please.
exactly. I know you're there, big brother. I know you got
Yeah.
my data, and I know you know everything about me, and you're watching
Yeah,
and
you
listening.
just wait till
Look
the
at
day that you sneeze and your phone says "bless you," and you'll be like, "What?"
right. So we're very. I'm sure there is already some smart houses already that will do that. I'm sure there's already something creepy like that happening. Yeah, because we used to have like the Alexa thing hooked up. I took it. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I unplugged it. I didn't like it because she would be listening when she wasn't supposed to be listening. You would see like the little thing glowing.
Yeah.
Like, nah, she's gathering information. I didn't ask you nothing. What you doing?
No, that's
Are you just turning on listening?
I never get it. My parents are big on it, and I know other people. And then you'd ask a question, and I can look on my phone and figure it out in like 2 minutes, and then you just watch them sit there and go, Alexa, Patrick Mahomes paid salary year 2020, and you're like trying to do it like 7 times in a row, and it just goes, I don't know. Or then it'll be like $2 million. You're like, that's not what it is. And I just on my phone, I'm like, it's this. They're like, no, but you can just say it. And they're just yelling. And I'm like, you can also just do the thing where you write it out on your phone. It's the same.
It's faster too. Oh no, you're right. Some people just love to like not have to use their hands or to be multitasking.
It's a new technology, and I'm like, it's worse though. It's worse than what we have.
It's worse. It's much worse than what we have. It's not improving our quality of life. No, I agree. I said I unplugged it too. I was like, and I felt weird asking stuff. I was like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
All right, and I don't even do talk text. I'm strange. I'm not that technologically advanced yet. I don't want to do it. Well, I know I don't do it because somebody was texting the other day, and then somebody cut them off in traffic, and then they just started dropping f-bombs on it was a group chat, and then they were like, "Sorry about that, guys," and I was like, I wondered what happened. You went from talking about when we were going to meet up, what time, to MF or what the, and I was like,
so I think we should get dinner first, and then we can head over the movie. Dumb.
Yeah, bro, it was just like that. I was like, oh, what happened? And then like 2 minutes later, I was like, I'm so sorry, guys. I got cut off in traffic. And I was like, okay, that's all right. Little road rage on the group chat there. All right, let's get to some Texas football conversation. So I've been tracking the last couple of days. I went down a rabbit hole. Been tracking havoc rates and basically a havoc play. And I went through this a little bit yesterday, but I want to go into some more detail. Havoc plays or any splash plays by the defense, right? So we're talking about interception, a PBU, a tackle for loss, a sack, hell, even a tip pass by the defensive lineman, a forced fumble recovery, any of those splash plays by the defense. That's what we're looking at when we talk about havoc rates and the players who are the most havoc-minded players on the team. Jahdae Barron is right now your best havoc player. For the last 2 years, he's been in your top 3 in terms of the players with the most havoc plays. And guys know I love me some Jahdae Barron. In 2022, he had 15 havoc plays overall throughout the season. Jalen Ford led the team with 19 havoc plays overall. And for this particular metric, the splash plays we combine tackles for loss and sacks because a sack is a tackle for loss. College football counts them twice, so you get, even the NFL doesn't. The NFL divides it up. A sack is a sack, quarterback taken down behind the line of scrimmage. A tackle for loss is any other offensive ball carrier taken down behind the line of scrimmage. College football, they're weird about sack yardage and rushing yardage, but we won't get into that. My point is, just so you know, the way we calculate the stat, tackles for loss, sacks are thrown into that category. But for like Jalen Ford in 2022, he had 19. Jahdae Barron was tied second. He was tied for second, I should say, with DeMarvion Overshown in 2022. So he was second, and this last season, he led the team in havoc plays with 11.5. So Jade Barron is in terms of premier playmakers on the defense, he makes as many plays on splash plays on defense as any player. So, and when you look at the other players from last year who are returning, who had double-digit havoc plays, Anthony Hill is actually he's tied for second. He and Ethan Burke. So give Ethan Burke a lot of credit. Ethan Burke had a lot of splash plays between the tackles for loss and the fumble recoveries. He had a lot of splash plays. So did Jade Barron. So he had 11.5, and Anthony Hill. So those are your top returning premier playmakers on defense. Jaron Thompson actually had double-digit havoc plays too, 10.5, but he's leaving. Maybe he had 3 interceptions last year. Terrence Brooks was close. He had 9. Terrence Brooks is leaving. He had 9 havoc plays, and he's gone. So your hope is that Malik Muhammad, who's going to be great. I love me. He's probably my favorite player in that secondary after Jade Barron. He is a ball hawk. You're hoping that he gets his hands on more footballs. The more he plays, I think that'll be true. And honestly, Taft Daddy is a guy that he makes a lot of plays. I mean, Taft Daddy had damn near 8 havoc plays last year between the PBUs, and he had 3 interceptions, tackles for loss. I know Taft Daddy gets hated on a lot, but Michael Taft made a lot of splash plays, and the belief, at least my belief, is that he'll make more this year because he'll be more familiar and knowledgeable of the defense, and he'll have better players around him overall. So I think his havoc plays could improve. So they need more guys to be in the double-digit havoc play club. All right, they need and to join Jade Barron, to join Anthony Hill, to join Ethan Burke. And if I had to guess on a player to join it, I'd say Malik Muhammad is probably the one I'm guessing to be on that list after this season. Yeah, he should be. Someone else? Oh, I'm trying to think. That edge room is deep. It should be another edge defender, honestly. That edge room is deep. It should be another guy from the edge. Ethan Burke is one, but between a young Colin Simmons, between Trey Moore coming in, it probably should be Trey Moore.
It should be, yeah. Because Colin Simmons should be next year or the year after. He should be that guy. But I don't know. Freshman year is hard. But yeah, sophomore, junior year for him. Like we were saying with Malik Muhammad going up. You're saying you expect him to play this year, do good things, but then the double-digit part you would say would be sophomore, junior year.
Yep. Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. Yes, you just I'm with you. He situationally, you can throw him in there. I will say that, man, with Anthony Hill last year, the first part of the season was them getting him acclimated, getting him familiar with the system. Hell, by the end of the year, I mean, he was your starting linebacker next to, in that defense, that 7 in that defensive backfield there. He was your linebacker along with Jalen Ford. So I think it could happen if Colin Simmons is that much of a prodigy. I'm not sure if with this depth, this type of depth of the defensive end at the edge position, if they need a young prodigy like that. For those other situations, even the linebacker, you needed Anthony Hill. You really didn't have a lot of other linebacker options.
And for Colin Simmons, it'll also somewhat depend on counting playoff stats and now counting going further into the season, because you talk about the games he could play later in the season to add into those stats of, if you talk about, okay, you have a championship game and then 3 playoff games, you can add playoff games into it. So there could be more opportunities for him to make a play later in the season than there used to be.
That's true. That's a great point. I agree with you. You could add 2 more games to it. Yeah. That's you can get a lot more guys in that double-digit havoc play category that I'm talking about. So there you go. Those are the premier playmakers on defense for Texas. If you look at, and I went and looked at the opposing teams Texas will play coming up on their 2024 schedule, and just the havoc rates overall the defenses. I expected Michigan last year to have the highest havoc rate of opposing teams Texas is going to play this upcoming season, and they're actually second. The Aggies have the highest havoc rate of upcoming teams Texas is going to play. Now, they lost a lot, so did Michigan, so I'm not basing it on this season, looking ahead, I'm just as obviously the teams that are gonna play and their havoc rates from last season. So a lot of it's based on just the style and brand of defense teams play. But yeah, the Aggies. So how about this? It's the Aggies, the Wolverines. So Texas A&M, Michigan, and then the Sooners are the top three teams you're gonna play in havoc rate coming up next season. So it's your rivals are two of your rivals, and actually Arkansas is pretty high up there too. Actually, Arkansas makes it into the top five of the highest havoc rates on teams that you're gonna play next season. It's all your rivals. So you got to make sure against your rivals, you're not allowing the defense to make a lot of splash plays against you, because those are the teams that have a tendency, at least the teams you're going to play, that have a tendency to make the most splash plays on defense. So that'll be big test for Texas. But next season, I think Texas adds potentially two guys. I think Janae Barron will continue to do it because he did it 2 seasons in a row. He's had over 11 um, splash plays or havoc plays on defense. I think Anthony Hill will have more because they're going to use him more, and he's going to play from the start of the season, be the starter from the start of the season to the end of the season. And if he doesn't get hurt, so I'm not going to wood there. And then Ethan Burke, I think he'll pick up right where he left off. I love Ethan Burke's game. You're going to add two. I think Malik Muhammad should be one of those guys. And it could be a Taft Daddy. It should be Trey Moore added another guys. And that overall, to me, you can have, like I said, Texas had a lackluster pass defense last season. Doesn't mean you don't make a lot of plays on the football. They were top 10 in interceptions in the country last year with 16 interceptions. So Texas was actually making a lot of plays on the football. Had a lot of PBUs, 66 PBUs. They made a lot of plays on the football in their secondary. They just gave up a lot of big plays too. Made a lot of plays, gave up a lot of big plays. What you want is them to be more fundamentally sound. Keep making the splash plays, make more of those splash plays. Then, obviously find a way to mitigate the damage done by big plays and explosive plays they're giving up. The deep ball, the inside breaking routes that I talk about all the time, defending empty formation and closely clustered groups of receivers. There's just certain concepts that I think the defense, just the back seven, and the defense have struggled with. The defensive line actually has gotten really good, and I expect them to be a strength again this year. Bringing in veterans like Tia Zavea and Lole and Bill Norton on the interior D line, got guys like Alfred Collins and Vernon Broughton, and then we talk about the edges and how much depth they have on the edge. I'm not really that worried about the D line, and we'll see how they hold up when you go to Michigan and they want to play some power football and they're going to try to run, the power schemes and gap schemes and attack the guts of that defense. If they don't hold up there, then maybe I'll start stressing out there. But I think Sark did everything within his power to try to bring in reinforcements after losing Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy. My biggest concern really is about the pass defense and whether they can improve there. They brought in Makuba for it. I think Malik Muhammad's great. I like the frontline starters there. As a matter of fact, we'll talk more about this in Rod's rant because there's some secondary rankings that are looking at the Texas secondary as glass half full. If it is, this Texas defense is going to be pretty damn good. If indeed, that secondary does improve. Didn't look like they improved much in the spring game, but that wasn't all your frontline guys. You didn't see much of Malik Muhammad. You didn't see any really of Makuba. You saw some Makuba, not as much. So the frontline guy, you didn't see any Jade Barron. The frontline guys didn't play as much. I think when you have those guys getting the bulk of the reps, secondary will look a whole lot better. Cornerback spot opposite and Malik Muhammad worries me a little bit. They brought in Javion Cole. We'll see how that works out. So very few question marks on defense. But I do think ultimately you got more playmakers now. You should be making more of those havoc and splash plays that I talk about. All right, there you go. That's the havoc rate and havoc plays for Texas, something I'll be keeping up with all throughout the season. All right, so let's get to the break. We'll come back. We'll talk about the topic of the day. My man Patrick always brings us a great topic of the day for our big fat poll today. We'll also get to the musically themed day of the week. We always have fun talking about a 5-1-2 Friday as well. So we'll do all that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn.
Back in the Rodcast here on a 512 Friday where we play local music. You can go check out around town all weekend long. This is Holy Wave, and they're playing Saturday at the Far Out Lounge. You can go check out some Holy Wave happening there. Let's get to the big fat poll of the day. Text line is open, 512-447-3776.
Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the Day on the Horn.
So this comes from last weekend. Last weekend, I was hanging out with our old friend BK, and we were talking about some other games and stuff. And I said the old sports cliche, the best ability is availability. And BK's response was to cringe, say, I hate that cliche. I hate it. And he said, this is one for your big fat poll. What is the worst sports cliche in sports? What is the worst cliche that you hate that they said all the time? What is the one that you cannot stand the most? So that there's ones like taking it one game at a time. I gave it 110%. That's one. We give the Aggie one. We just ran out of time.
I hate that one too. Yeah.
So let me know on the text line. What's the one that you hear announcers say or teams say or whoever say, and you just think, or coaches, and you think this is the cliche that everyone says, and I cannot stand it every time it's said. It doesn't make sense. It's not a good saying.
Sometimes they do make sense, though.
Sometimes they make sense.
You're just annoyed that people it's overused. Like the availability thing makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
It's just it may be overused. It may be that to that point, but it does make a sense that the best ability is availability. That does make, you know what I'm saying? So I'm with you. Someone doesn't make sense. 110% when you get it, but doesn't make sense.
Yes.
But yeah, so I don't know. That's I don't know, because I'm probably guilty of using a ton of them. So I don't even know. I try not
because we all do. We all use them.
You have to. It's just hard. They're crutches sometimes. You just have to lean on them and you don't mean to. But when you're just trying to explain your point, isn't easier than you trying to over-explain and mansplain to somebody. It's just like,
yes,
you get it. So that's a good one. I don't know, man. In terms of the one that annoys me the most, I probably got to think about it, because I probably be guilty of saying the thing that I think annoys me the most, and then they'll be like, Robbie, you said that you heard you say it like 4 times.
That's the thing, is there's things that I'll because like I was a big one of I always hated how much culture was used, and I still think it's misused all the time.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And so people use it in sentences, and I hated it because it was a thing where it was used in situations so much where people are like, well, they have to, this culture, this, and you're like, well, that's not the culture. Like, that has nothing to do with what you're talking about. You're talking about something else, and it's not a fix-all for everything that's out there.
It is kind of one of those catch-all things. It's like you just bring it up, and nobody is ever specific about it, about what the culture is and what defines a culture. You just kind of throw it out there as a blanket statement about, I'm with you. The culture one, honestly, lately, just because we hear it a lot here in Texas.
Yeah.
But we know the value of it, but people, every time
a good culture is there, but then there's places that don't have any, and they keep talking about it being bad or good, and this needs to change. You're like, but it's not really that existent. It's just you're just kind of existing there. And that's, like, I think Texas for a long time was in that space where it wasn't a bad culture. It was just there wasn't really one there, and you kept hearing about it. And so those ones. Let's see. Well, we got a couple on the text line already. We got at the end of the day is one.
At the end of the day.
So I went next man up, which I'll use all the time too. But I can understand where that may be annoying.
Yeah. No, you're right about that. Yeah, next man up comes up every time it's an injury.
Yeah,
basically, and that happens every damn, with your team. It happens every year. Just gonna be an injury, and you'll hear inevitably a player or a coach, and then the players become guilty of it, because I think the coaches, they throw it out there a ton. Then players and in media availability and post games, they throw them out there a ton because they're just tired. They're like, man, I'm just tired. I don't feel like really actually thinking about answering these questions, so I'm just gonna throw out a bunch of just a bunch of cliches and sayings. So and then we listen to them, and then we get them all too. So it's a vicious cycle.
It's a vicious cycle. The next man up is frustrating when it's we just have that next man up mentality. You're like, so you're not going to game plan around your now glaring weakness.
That exactly. Your star players down, next man up. It's like, no, I'm with you, because I think that's I don't even know Man, you're gonna have a long laundry list. I would love to see like a ranking of which one is mentioned the most, either on the text line or when you post it on X. Which one do people mention the most as the one cliche, sports cliche?
It'll be hard on X because I can only list 4 in the poll, but we'll have you can comment all you want and put up.
I know exactly in terms of the comments.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which ones are you gonna list on the poll?
I'm not sure yet. I will see if we get some good ones here on the text line. I'll put them in there in the poll.
Okay.
Go.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's not a bad one either. That one said a lot. And you're right. Your culture one is good. Lately, that's a very popular one. It seems like every coach in every interview brings up culture.
And I think the big one is it's a huge thing in job interviews that like coaches, when they're trying to sell themselves to a program, then they will go in and say, oh, no, I'm going to bring a winning culture. And I'm going to bring it's like, are you?
Yeah.
Yep. Are you going to do it, or are you?
Nice buzzword, man.
You got to say it.
Great buzzword.
Yeah.
Great buzzword.
Yeah.
It is a great buzzword.
I'm going to increase sales by 50%.
It's about the sales culture. It's about
the sales culture.
Yeah. Because you don't really describe it. It's like, so what are you going to do? Well, it's all about improving the sales culture. It's all about the culture. What's about culture? No culture. Just drop these words. Culture, connectivity. You know, it's all about relationships. Culture is about relationships. You just keep dropping buzzwords without actually ever providing detail.
Someone put both of these in there, and I can tell you this guy was a star, wanted to be the star player because this is the 2 that he put in. Practice makes perfect, and there's no I in team. That dude did not pass the ball. Did not pass. I can tell you right now.
Yeah. The no I in team. That's old school right there.
Yeah.
You don't hear that one as much anymore. That's old school. That's one of those old school sports cliches. Yeah. People usually know that I remember that one back when I was growing up. No I in team, but you don't hear it as much anymore.
Yeah.
It's like women whose name are Gertrude. Like some names go out of style. No more Gertrudes anymore.
Oh.
There's no
I think
so no more Ethels. Like my name's their little girl Ethel anymore. That's kind of like some of those old school sports cliches. Some of them not as used.
Wait, I got one here that is 100% going to have to make the poll because I think Cowboys fans are going to go for this one.
Oh no.
Going all in.
Going all in is a good one. Yeah.
Cowboys.
Cowboys cliches. We could just do those alone.
Just Jerry cliches.
Just Jerry. We like our guys. Going all in. Yeah. You could just do a little Jerry Jones Cowboys cliches. There's a bunch of them too. Bunch of them. But you're right there. The going all in is good. All in.
The way the cap is.
Yeah. Yeah. No. It's all in has probably been one that, at least for Cowboys fans, probably they're tired of hearing it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right. I like that. All right. So the topic of the day, let's see the topic for the big fat poll today. What is most annoying to you, sports cliche, or the most overused sports cliche? Somewhere in there, either overused in your opinion or the most annoying to you sports cliches out there. All right. When we come back, we'll dive into what the Big 12 is doing. The Big 12 is considering a naming rights deal, and they're also considering an equity deal. We talked about this probably a month ago, that there will be college football programs and we didn't think about conferences, but college football teams that would consider, bridging that financial gap with private capital and private equity. The financial gap they're going to have with revenue sharing becomes the new law of the land when they have the new financial framework after settling all the antitrust lawsuits. And a lot of schools, a lot of programs cannot afford the extra $20 million that it's going to take to meet the obligations of revenue sharing. And one of the options that has been thrown out there are these private capital firms, private equity firms that have billions of dollars in capital and equity that are going to offer these programs, and now even conferences offer them an option to help them close that financial gap. And I didn't think it would be considered this quickly, but in that story from Ross Dellinger, where we talked about a couple of months ago, he said this thing was already rolling downhill because, hey, they're thinking about rolling out the new financial framework of college sports like next year. If that's going to happen, you better have a plan financially as a program to be able to close that $20 million financial gap. So we'll get into that coming up on the other side, because the Big 12 may be one of the experimental pioneers, if you will, of this. So we'll talk about that on the other side. Also got Raj round the day. You won't believe where Pro Football Focus ranked the Texas secondary. We'll discuss it when we come back right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. What's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Austin is a great city. It's one of the reasons people keep moving to Austin, making it one of the fastest growing cities in America. And as our city continues to grow and thrive, well, so do our friends over at Ironworkers Local Union 482. Many of the iconic landmarks that you love in this city, that we all admire in this city, were actually built and constructed by the skilled craftsmanship of Ironworkers Local Union 482, like the Pennybacker Bridge and DKR Stadium. The folks over at Ironworkers Local 482 don't just go to the office, they're the ones who build the offices. So if you're looking for an exciting employment opportunity or a refreshing career change, or maybe you want a new challenge or you want to feel valued by your employer, you can become a valued member of this prestigious organization, Ironworkers Local Union 482. And right now is the perfect time to do it. They're hiring over 3,000 people for another big project they're constructing right here in Central Texas. They're offering competitive wages, competitive benefits, a pension plan. They even offer training for unskilled labor through their apprenticeship program. So right now is the perfect time for you to become a member of Ironworkers Local 482 and take pride in the type of teamwork and craftsmanship that help shape the future of our great city. So go online today and apply at ironworkers482.org. That's ironworkers482.org. Welcome back to the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. It is a Freak Flag Feel Good Fake It Till You Make It Ric Flair 512 Friday edition of the Rodcast. And that's when Patrick, the Idealionaire, plays songs from local bands and artists, very talented folks that you have a chance to see live right here in the ATX. Who are we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is Evan Charles, and he is playing tonight at the White Horse.
All right, there you go. I like this. It's nice. Yeah, it's a nice jam there. All right, got to get good groove. Put you in a good kind of Friday vibe to it. Like that. So 512 Friday, always enjoy it. Thanks to my man Patrick Davis. Also, we always enjoy the conversation that is sparked by the topic for the Big Fat Poll of the day. And Patrick, let the folks know what the topic is for the Big Fat Poll of the day. You can join the conversation, 512-447-3776 on the text line.
Yes, Big Fat Poll of the day. What is the most annoying sports cliche?
Yeah, it's a long list. I'm still
list.
interested to see which four you're going to end up putting up for the actual poll on X, because it's hard to narrow those down. It's a bunch of them, and like I said, I'm guilty. I know I am of using. I'm reluctant to throw out one because I'm sure I've used it too many times.
That's what makes it the cliche. Yeah. It's used too many times.
Yeah,
it is used to death, and it comes from a good place, and it makes sense in the moment. And then it's continued to be used over and over and over again. Like, as I say, culture is a perfect example of the thing that and if it's used correctly in the right place, is fine. But it gets used so much and to describe so much that it becomes now annoying when you just go, it's not a catch-all of everything.
It is used now as pretty much, I mean, like I said, I want to say 70% of the time I hear a coach in an interview, culture comes up.
Yep.
Just comes up for one way, and then when they're talking about the team and talking about their goals and stuff like that, culture comes up. And Sark's big about it, of course. And I think coaches mean it. I think some of the coaches really mean it, but also think, at times it's just kind of a blanket thing to throw out.
Yes.
These days, and it could mean a lot of different things instead of it being specifically defined for each program. All right, there you go. So most annoying sports cliches. That is the topic for the Big Fat Poll today. We'll get to Rod's rant. That'll be a discussion about the Pro Football Focus rankings. They did a ranking of the best secondaries in college football, and the Longhorns got some love. So we'll get into that in Rod's rant of the day. But first, we'll talk about our ex a little bit. Usually I say it's not good to, be stalking your ex. You can cyber stalk your ex. That's okay. And every now and then when you're cyber stalking your ex, you'll see them doing something crazy. You're like, man, what the hell are they doing? That's wild. I think now I'm looking at the Big 12 and they're doing some surprising things. Now we're now going into the SEC, so we don't worry about what the Big 12 is doing. But like I said, every now and then it's fun to cyber stalk your ex, and that's what we'll do. We'll cyber stalk the Big 12 a little bit and talk about them considering private equity, and also them considering a naming rights deal for the conference too. Before we do any of that, let's get educated, let's get informed, let's get updated on all the top stories of the day with my man Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars have agreed on a 5-year, $275 million contract extension on Thursday. The contract includes $200 million guaranteed and now puts Lawrence under contract until 2030. The $55 million average salary in the deal ties him with Joe Burrow for the top mark in that category in the NFL. In the NBA, the Celtics can win the NBA championship tonight in a sweep over the Mavs in Game 4 of the Finals. No team has ever come back from a 3-0 deficit in the NBA playoffs to win the series. The Mavs will try to avoid being the 10th team in NBA history to be swept in the Finals and the first since the Cavs in 2018. In Major League Baseball, the Astros will begin their series with the Tigers this evening, sending Hunter Brown to the mound, hoping to get a solid performance from the young pitcher against an early leader for the AL Cy Young, Tariq Skubal, who is 8-1 on the season with a 1.92 ERA. And the Rangers won their series with the Dodgers after a 3-1 victory last night. Wyatt Langford knocked in 2 runs in the game, and the Rangers pitching was solid with Lorenzen making it 7 innings, only allowing 1 run on a solo homer, and the bullpen getting 6 strikeouts in the 2 innings pitched. The Rangers now move on to a big divisional series with the Mariners this weekend, and that is your Horn Headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn Headlines. All right, but let's get into these 2 Big 12 stories. Remember, Brett Yormark famously said from day one that the Big 12 is open for business. All right, he's straight up. He's like, no, man, we're open for business. Straight, and he's had that approach. He has tried his best to bring the Big 12 into kind of into a pop culture, a new pop culture realm. They're not normally accustomed to being in, right? He's bringing in musical acts to have concerts before conference tournaments, and he's having different foodie events associated with some of the conference postseasons. Well, remember, every school would have like a different food associated with them at the I think it's the conference basketball tournament that they have. And also he's big on trying to monopolize college basketball, the best college basketball in the country. He wants the Big 12. He knows they can't contend with trying to get any market share really of college football, of major college football. That's going to be the Big 10, the SEC. But he's smart enough to know, all right, you know what? We've been the premier college basketball conference, and we can continue to build on that. And that's why he's got exhibitions in Rucker Park for some, I think the men's and women's actually have some of those in the Big 12. He's trying to get them to play games, football and basketball, internationally, like in Mexico City and some other places. So Brady R. Marks, he's thinking outside the box. And I always said I liked him for that hire. That was a good hire by the Big 12. In that situation, I always say you were looking for either a dinosaur, an alien, when you're looking for someone to fill a position of importance and a position of authority like that, and you can pick a dinosaur, which either one of these is good. Dinosaur is old and wise, knows the terrain, ancient, right, and knows the ways of that ecosystem and that environment. Or you can choose an alien, somebody who doesn't know the terrain at all. They don't know their world. They're foreign to it, but they have an advantage that the dinosaur doesn't have. They have a better perspective on things because the aliens has got the 30, 40,000 foot view of things. And the alien comes into the situation will always ask, why not? You know what I mean? Instead of asking why. Why not? Why can't we do that? And Brett Yormark's an alien. And he came to a situation now he's bringing in ideas that they never thought about. He's got business seminars for the conference. Then they got the association with WWE now, right? They got a championship belt that they give to the MVP of the Big 12 title game for football. I mean, he's got a lot of different ideas that he's been throwing out there. That's my point. So him considering some of these very progressive ideas are pursuing, it's not a shock at all. So here's the first one. Brett McMurphy reported this. That the Big 12 is considering a naming rights deal for the conference. And we know that the NCAA just approved, they just approved that all college football teams can have naming rights deals on the field, right? So you can get a naming rights deal for the field. Campbell Williams Field at Texas, I'm sure will have a field sponsor at one point if they don't already have one. It just hasn't been announced. But that was just like 2 weeks ago. And before that, we discussed on this show, Patrick and I told you, not only are they going to do sponsorships on the stadiums and in the field, which they did. That's just a start. They'll have the stadium naming rights deal. I guarantee that'll get approved too. And they now, I guarantee, are discussing, having sponsorships on jerseys, like endorsements on jerseys too, and ads on the jerseys of the players. And they're considering, like I said, now even conferences having naming rights deals. They got to close the financial gap, people. They got like a $20 million gap in revenue sharing that they got to close. So they're going to be considering a whole lot of options that they didn't before. All these programs. And does it sound desperate? Maybe it is desperate, but they need to close it. They need to close that gap quickly. They don't have like 5 years to figure this out. So if they sell these antitrust lawsuits, new financial framework, revenue sharing's in, boom. If you can't keep up, you're a have not. If you can, you're a have. Good luck. And a lot of these schools who are kind of stuck in the middle, they're like, man, all right, how do we get an extra $10 million? We got 10 that we can get. We're cutting expenses. That's why walk-ons may not be able to make it anymore. Trust me, they're cutting in some of these programs. They're cutting like the summer camps that they have for like the youth. because they're too expensive. Like, nah, man, it's too expensive. We put on like 5 of those camps in the summertime. It costs a whole lot of money for those whole weekend. I'm not joking. It's crazy. It's wild. And I say that's why the walk-on thing may not last, because they consider that an expense, something that they don't have the money to pay for anymore. Okay, so anyway, so the Big 12 is considering a naming rights deal. Brett McMurphy says that Allstate right now is the front runner, the leading candidate for the new naming rights deal. So it would be the, I don't know if it, the Big Allstate, Big 12, the Big Allstate Conference. I have no idea how they would name it. The multi-year deal could earn the league between $30 to $50 million annually. You can't, it's like found money. You can't pass that up. $30 to $50 million annually. They're going to give to the conference just because they want to put their name on it. Go right ahead. Please do. I'll put your ad on my jersey. You're going to pay us $20 million a year to put your ad on. Go right ahead. On the field, you're going to pay us $50 million. Go ahead. Go ahead, please. Go ahead and do it. Guys, it's going to happen. It's found money. It's too easy. They didn't even have to really generate this revenue. They just really had to approve another revenue stream, and this thing is going to flow like the Mississippi. And it's going to be divided up between the 16-member teams. So, I don't know if you'll get that much per team, depending on, like I said, 30 to 50 million annually divided by 16. Do the math. I was always told, do not do math live on air, and I will not do that. So that's going to happen, guys. I would say the best sponsorship idea I've heard, and it's definitely not going to happen because there's too many big money corporations that want to be a part of this now. And Allstate, insurance companies got so much damn money. Insurance companies got so much. You know what? Like companies with a lot of money. Like insurance companies got a lot of money. Them and like pharmaceutical companies, and so unfortunately, those aren't really fun. And sometimes the insurance companies actually have some of the best commercials, so they can be fun. But it's just going to be a big corporation, and they can afford it, and to them it's not really a huge expense. But one of the more creative ideas I've heard is that Whataburger should sponsor the Big 12 and call it the Water Conference. Well done. We gave it up and threw that out there.
Yeah.
Well done.
I do wonder. There is a part of me that wonders if this will hurt recruiting to a certain extent. That somebody, if they're the only conference doing it, do you want to play in the Big 10, the SEC, or the Dr. Pepper 12? Where do you want to play? No, man, I'm all Dr. Pepper. I'm an all Dr. Pepper. 2 years in a row, all Dr. Pepper.
That's true. They're the only ones doing it. Who's going to refer to it as that other than the official? That's the thing about it. These naming rights.
Because if they change the actual conference name to the naming rights, because they were saying getting rid of the Big is one of the things I saw. They're like, well, Big 12 is already a dumb name, so we'll get rid of the Big, and then we'll just have the whatever sponsor. And you're like, well, that's awful.
The All-State 12 conference.
Like, that's awful. That's because horrible. And again, if I'm a kid, I'm like, I get that it's like there's revenue sharing, but it's like, man, I don't want to wear that. I don't want to walk around and tell people that's what I did, because it just sounds garbage. So you're like, it can be, if you want to say, All-State Big 12 or the All-State Big 16 or whatever you call it, or All-State whatever, that's better, because then you go like, oh, it's a sponsor of what our name is. But you can't change the name of the conference.
If you want to change the name of the conference, dude, it's gonna cost you more money than that. If you like, that's like that's like a contract with exclusivity. If you want exclusivity like that to that extent, we talking about more than 30 to 50 million a year. Then
if I'm the sponsor, I don't want that. I don't want to be like, hey, no, I'm gonna be known. Allstate will be known as the people who started to ruin the fun of college football by just stepping over that one line where we had to start calling these kids and be like, no, it's All-State 12 championship. And it's it's too much. Where if you say the All-State Big 12, you go, okay, it works a little bit easier. And I get it. It's like, I think it works. I think
you should, like you said, you should keep the Big 12 in there, because the naming rights deal is going to change. It's going to turn over to somebody else in like 5 years.
Yeah.
Like, what I mean? It's going to end up like the bowl naming rights.
Yeah.
Naming rights change. So don't make the All-State Conference unless you're signing, I don't know, a 20-year deal with them. You know what I mean? Like, if you're signing like a 5-year deal, no, keep the Big 12 in there. But I will say this, Brett Yormark has been open, at least reportedly, that he wants to change the name, that he doesn't like the Big 12. Yeah. He wants to change it to something else, something cooler, something, that he's all about trying to stay current and stay cool. So he wants to change to something that's, much more modern and progressive, whatever he's got an idea for. But because he's kind of like you, he's an idea, he's got a lot of great ideas. So I don't know what he's doing, but I agree with you. Don't make it the All-State conference. That's or whatever the sponsor is. Don't make it that. That's
no, and it's a key of with any product and trying to keep you get that college football. It's football. It's going to be there, but there's a certain part of there's a lot of ways you can do things and not chip away at the history of the game and the integrity of the game, and just you chip away it, but it's not a huge piece. Just little chips, and eventually it'll go down. But when you start taking giant hacks at it and go, no, we're throwing out everything of the history of the game, and we're just selling out now. We're gonna wear big stickers on our helmets. We got stuff on the field. We're gonna call every game. Every game is sponsored. Everything is this because we need
NASCAR,
the money.
baby.
We need the money. We need the money.
NASCAR.
And what NASCAR is NASCAR.
I know, but I'm just saying that's the mentality, though.
But no, it's not NASCAR anymore. If it was called Cars by Allstate or Cars by Coca-Cola, then you go.
No, but the NASCAR mentality is sell it all. Sell it. Just sell everything. Everything sold. Everything sold as many sponsors as we can get all the time. That's been a different mentality of college football. It hadn't had that mentality.
But that's what I'm saying is there's easier to do that than change the name. Where you go, is it Talladega still? And they go, no, it's not. It's not the Indy 500 anymore. What is it called? No, it's not Indy 500 now. Now it's the State Farm 500. And it's just
that's why the bowl games are a great example, right? You keep the Sugar Bowl. They always have the Sugar Bowl, the Rose Bowl, and then they have a sponsor. So I think that's the way to go. And I think Brett Yormark's smart enough to figure that out. Okay, here's the other story with the Big 12. The Big 12 is also considering selling an equity stake of 20% to a private equity firm. This comes from Dennis Dodd of CBS Sports. Dodd reports that CVC Capital Partners, based out of Luxembourg, is the possible partner, and that in addition to an infusion of 9 to 10 figures, the Big 12 or 16 will get access to CVC's investment services and clients, thereby generating more opportunities to make more money, branding and sponsorships and ad sales, that kind of stuff. Like I said, this is Brett Yormark says we're open for business. The man is serious about it. Private equity is something. We talked about this. Private capital, private equity. Private capital is just something you would pay back over time. Private equity means they have a stake in your company, a stake in whatever they decide based on the agreement, but whatever they're investing in, they have a stake in it. The private equity it says here has been circling. The company that we brought up was Redbird Capital, and they were a private capital firm. This is private equity, which means they would have a stake in the Big 12. So if they're valuing the Big 12 at $1 billion, at least 20% stake at $1 billion, so they're valuing the Big 12 between $5 and $6 billion overall. I always wonder if they're undervaluing the brand. And I don't even know how that would work. I'm not a financial whiz, so I have no idea. I thought a conference was made up of the members, and how would they own, shares of member schools? If a program did it, I could understand, but a conference doing it, I don't even know how that would work, actually. Because isn't a conference just made up of the members of the conference?
Yeah.
And so would they own stake of the conference members or just the conference? Because I don't know how that would work. Yeah. That's what I wonder what, I mean, so that's what I'm not sure about, but it is something they're considering. Smarter guys than myself will figure that out, I'm sure. But it's all about them trying to, like I said, close the financial gap. They're considering equity. Why not just do the capital? I'd rather have to pay it back, and them getting a stake in the conference, like 20%. That sounds a little risky. That sounds riskier than just going with a private capital firm that'll give you capital, but they want an equity stake that is a little different. So we'll see if this actually gains some legs. But remember, we talked about this is something that I got about half the programs now in the country are at least going to talk about and consider, because you have no choice now. You have to look at all possible options to generate more revenue in college sports. All right, there you go. So the Big 12 being progressive, looking at some really modern ideas. All right, we'll get to Rod's rant. Matter of fact, let's stay on time. We can push it to next segment. Let's do Rod's rant next segment because I don't want to make it short. I don't want to rush it. So we'll get into it. We'll talk about Pro Football Focus ranking the top 10 secondaries in all of college football. I did not expect to see the Longhorns ranked, but they were getting some love. Makes me feel better about the Longhorns defense and their pass defense specifically coming up in the 2024 season. And I'll talk about, if they are going to be a top 10 secondary, the things they need to improve on. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into Rod's rant of the day. And I want to talk about this Pro Football Focus ranking of the best defensive backfields or the best secondaries in the country. And it's a little surprised. Number one was Ohio State. No surprise there because Ohio State And they're loaded. They got Caleb Downs, who's the best safety in America. And they added him via the transfer portal. So the rich get even richer. So they're loaded. Iowa Hawkeyes, even without Cooper DeJean, they're still a loaded secondary. They got a great culture. They got a great culture up there, the defensive back culture at Iowa, and defensive culture overall. Notre Dame's really good secondary this year. They're ranked number 3, behind Iowa at number 2 and Ohio State at number 1 on this list by Pro Football Focus. Michigan, who Texas will play, they have the best cornerback in the country in Will Johnson, so no surprise there on that list too. I think Rod Moore is a safety in that secondary who's also a really, really good player for them. So they're ranked 4th on this list of the best secondaries in the country. Oregon is 5th. On this list. Remember, they added Jabbar Muhammad, who was the corner from Washington that Texas was recruiting out of the transfer portal. They added him to an already loaded secondary, and they also added a couple of pieces from the transfer portal. Also from the Big 12, they added K-State's Kobe Savage. So they've added a lot of pieces via the transfer portal. And they lost 3 starters, but they added like 3 or 4 starters from the transfer portal alone. Jabbar Muhammad being one of them, Savage being another. So they're ranked ahead of Texas in this secondary ranking. And then they have the Longhorns at 6th. The excerpt here says Texas returns 4 defensive backs who played at least 300 snaps in 2023. Jahdae Barron, Malik Muhammad, Derek Williams, and Gavin Holmes. Muhammad is a rising star in college football after starting at outside cornerback for the Longhorns as a true freshman. His 79.9 coverage grade ranked 2nd among all Big 12 cornerbacks, and his 20% forced incompletion rate was placed 5th. Texas also added Andrew Makuba from the transfer portal. He ranked 7th among Power 5 cornerbacks in 2023 in yards per coverage snap allowed. Makuba is expected to start as safety for the Longhorns in 2024. Yeah, Dabo Swinney said Makuba can play any position in the secondary, and he had played any position in the secondary for Clemson. Played nickel, played safety, even played some corner where they needed him. So he's a really versatile piece. Versatility is one of the new buzzwords, often overused as a cliche too, when coaches are talking about things they value. But Sark has been really serious about bringing in more versatile pieces on defense. So they have Georgia ranked 7th, and let's just round out the top 10. So Texas will play them. Texas will play 3 of the top 10 secondaries based on this ranking. They'll play Michigan, we talked about earlier. They play Georgia, who's ranked 7th on this list. Wisconsin's 8th on this list. They got the Sooners 9. Remember, the Sooners last year had 20 interceptions. They got their hands on a lot of footballs, had 20 interceptions, 69 nice PBUs as a defense. So they actually were a really opportunistic group. And then you have the Wildcats, Arizona Wildcats. They're at number 10 on this list. Remember, the Longhorns were recruiting that 6'3" corner, Takario Davis from Arizona. He was, I don't know, it was reported that he was in the transfer portal, but he wasn't in there long because then he went back to Arizona. Most of that because Coach Dwayne Aquino, my former DB coach, is now the defensive coordinator there at Arizona. All right, so that's your top 10. But I think I was like a lot of you, a little surprised the Longhorns were 6th on that list. And I like the Longhorns frontline starters. I love me some Malik Muhammad. Jahdae Barron, I just talked about Jahdae Barron. He's probably your most consistent playmaker in secondary. He makes, on the defense period, he makes more havoc plays than anybody on the defense. He was 2nd in 2022. He was 1st in havoc plays overall in 2023. I mean, this is a guy that was injured and missed a little bit of time and threw him in there in the U of H game, and he basically won the U of H game for you with a defensive stand. You don't win that game without a controversial call by the ref, but also a great defensive play by Jahdae Barron when they moved him out to corner. And he made a great kind of game-saving play. So I think he's great. I think he's an NFL guy. I think Malik Muhammad's an NFL guy. You added Makuba. Just talked about his versatility. I think Derek Williams is going to take a huge step. Only question is the cornerback spot opposite of Malik Muhammad. But then, and also the rotational guys. That's a question, right? I think Taft's going to be great as a rotational piece, but we don't know what we're going to get really out of guys like Jelani McDonald. We talked about the cornerback spot, Gavin Holmes and Javion Cole. Texas wants to rotate in the secondary. They've been adamant about that because Sark wants guys to be fresher in the fourth quarter. So even your frontline stars are only going to play 65% of the snaps. Hopefully you're blowing teams out, and that's when you can rotate a lot of your other guys in. But if that's not the case and you're in competitive games, those are valuable reps. And teams, they do change and adjust their play calling based on the personnel that's out there. We know this because even in that the game versus Washington in the Sugar Bowl, remember the fourth down conversion by Washington, that 4th and 1, where he calls the timeout before, and he's essentially trying to outwit Texas defensive coordinator Pete Kwiatkowski, and he decides to go for it when initially he was putting a punt team on the field. Then he came back and put his offense on the field because he wanted to see what D tackles they were putting out there. And they put Vernon Broughton out there and Alfred Collins, and they went, let's go. Going for it.
Yep.
If they had T. Sweat and Byron Murphy out there, he'd punt that ball. He was like, nah, they got him out there. Let's go. They're rotating. Let's go. It's smart. I mean, I would save plays for the second team. Like, they rotate those guys. All right, let's go. We got the plays ready. I'd have 2 scripts. I have a script for the rotating guys. I have a script for the frontline starters. I would. If I was an offensive coordinator, why not? I know you're going to rotate those guys because you've been doing it the last 2 years. Rotate them in, and that's when I'll save kind of my special plays because they're not as good as the starters. If they were, they'd be starting. Like, I'm sorry, that may simplify, but that's very simplified, but that's just the truth. All right, and I'd wait for those guys. That's why I think, and who's been adamant saying, don't do wholesale rotations. Don't do that. Do it like basketball. Find different lineups that work. Piecemeal, and then don't make it easy on offense coordinators going, oh, second group's in. All right, a whole new group of plays. Let's get our second group of plays ready for the backups. Like, you don't want to do wholesale rotations.
And let's
Piecemeal.
go no huddle.
Yes, exactly right.
No substitution. Yeah. Just go. If we don't substitute, they can't substitute. We'll just run down the field on them. Yes,
like it's too easy. So don't make it easy on the offense. I think you should do piecemeal, different lineups. So those type of substitutions rather than the wholesale rotations on defense, which they did a lot more last season. But anyway, getting back to it, I do think this secondary has can it be a top 10 secondary? I mean, that's based on what metric you're looking at. It's going to be based on, your subjective opinion, subjective opinion, or whatever that may be. I'll say this though. I think first of all, there's a lot of room for improvement. They were one of the worst pass defenses in the country last year. But there's 4 areas they got to improve on. And they've been bad defending these concepts the last 2 years. So if they get better at defending 2 of these 4 concepts, they'll be top 30, potentially top 30 secondary easily in the country. And maybe if guys are exceeding expectations and overachieving, they could be a top 15, top 10 secondary. So I'm not saying they can't be. Maybe that is the ceiling. They got to defend inside breaking routes better. It's at this point, it's a borderline systemic issue. If you are a coach, one thing you want to do is you're just a problem solver. You got to solve the problem, whatever the problem is. Could be a technique, fundamental issue with the player. Could be a system issue. It could be an issue with the actual scheme fit of that player. So maybe you need to change the system a little bit or tweak it for the player. It could be psychologically, the way you coach the player, the way he's motivated or she's motivated, whatever. It could be a lot of different things, right? What's keeping a player from reaching their ceiling. And you as a coach got to figure out what's limiting that player and then help them break loose from those shackles, right? And rise to being the best version of themselves. And what I think is frustrating to watch is when the coaches don't solve these specific problems year to year. I know no team is perfect and no coach is perfect, no player is perfect. So there are going to be things that come up. What shouldn't happen is year to year having the same issue because you got an off season to solve it, especially now with transfer portal. So you should be able to solve an issue. Yeah, something else may pop up, but the same issue from 2022 should not be the same issue in 2023. Like Texas red zone offense, it shouldn't be an issue in 2024. If it is, that's a problem. It's a systemic issue because Texas was a top 5 red zone offense in 2021, and they were a bottom 10 red zone offense and our bottom 15 red zone offense in the country in 2023. Not a big deal because it's something new. But if they're also a bottom 5, bottom 10 red zone offense in 2024, okay, now we're getting closer to being, it's not just a coincidence, it's not an outlier. Now we got something that it's a pattern, it's a trend, it needs to be addressed. So for the DBs, inside breaking routes, I don't know why they haven't figured out how to defend them, and I think leverage is just a simple issue. But I was at least under the impression from Sark that the coverage determines the leverage. Not something the players really have a lot of freedom to work with, a lot of freedom to adjust on their own. I believe the coverage, from what I understand, determines the leverage. So maybe there needs to be a tweak in the coverage, in the system, as we talked about. Or the players, hell, man, go out there, and the players can be problem solvers too. Your coach may tell you to play something a certain kind of way, but you're out there on the field, and if they're killing you on the same concept over and over again because the system told you, oh man, you're supposed to have outside leverage on in this specific coverage, so you can cheat. There's a great story of I believe it's I don't think it's Charles Omenihu, if I'm not mistaken. Texas playing Texas Tech in Lubbock, and Texas Tech is in a short yardage situation, and they're under center. Tech is never under center. Never under center. It's Tech, for God's sakes. All right. And Charles Omenihu comes from the edge and gets right into like the A gap, or right there, right in the interior of the D line. He just does it on his own. Coach didn't tell him to do it. Nobody told him to do it. And they end up stopping Texas Tech. They ran a quarterback sneak. And when they asked him after the game what he did, he was like, I've been watching film. Tech's never in the center. Every time they go into center, they just run a quarterback sneak. I knew they were going to run it. He didn't have time to tell his teammates, what are you going to do, call a timeout, give him time? Nope. Just went over there. Let me go solve the problem. Yeah. I know what it is. I know it. Look, like I've been watching films 100% of the damn time. Tech goes and said they're going to do it. And I believe that was Charles Omenihu, if I'm not mistaken, who did. It was just a great show of football IQ. So my point is, you're not always mandated, dictated by the coverage or rules and the rules of the defense. At times, as a player, you can override, make an executive decision, and veto. Okay, so getting back to it, they got to defend inside breaking routes better. They didn't do it well. If you go look at, and it's more the explosive plays, not really the frequency of it. It's more the yardage. Allowed over 9 yards per attempt in 22 and 2023 on inside breaking routes. If you look at money downs, third and fourth down conversions, over 50% last year conversion rate when you're targeting inside breaking routes on money downs. That's way too high. Your explosive play rate last year was over 20% on those inside breaking routes. That's something you gotta solve that. And in the spring game, you still average damn near 10 yards per attempt on inside breaking routes. All right, 3 touchdowns. You got to figure that out. I think it's a leverage issue. But like I said, the coverage seems to dictate what leverage they're going to play. And if the coverage dictates they play outside leverage, I understand that. But there are also, like I said, examples of a player in the second or the third quarter when they've been killing you on the inside breaking route, on the slant and on the glance and on the in route over and over again. You as a player, if the coach ain't going to make the adjustment, you make the adjustment. You're like, hey man, I'm going, you know what? I'm going a half a step inside. I'm going a step inside. Coach wants me to be outside. Instead of being outside, I'm going to be head up. Give me a nice extra step on that inside breaking route to break on it. So that's a big issue. The deep ball. They got to fix the deep ball issue. In 2023 versus Power 5 starting quarterbacks, they allowed over 40% completion rate on passes 20 yards or more to Power 5 starting quarterbacks. Maybe in the Big 12 title game, Oklahoma State, it was the only thing Oklahoma State could do to move the ball was throw it deep. They were 3 of 7 on deep balls. There was a PI on a deep ball. Remember, there was a non-call on the PI that should have been called, and there was a bad throw by the quarterback on a guy running wide open on a deep shot against Oklahoma State. And against Washington, it was Washington, 6 of 8 on passes 20 yards or more down the field. 75% completion percentage on passes 20 yards or more down the field, 2 touchdowns, 30 yards per attempt. And trust me, in 2022, it was much of the same. Got to fix the deep ball issue. Got to have a panic plan when the ball's thrown down the field. Are you going to play the eyes? You're going to play the hands? Are you in phase, out of phase? Can you play the man? Are you playing the ball through the man? Are you playing the ball? You need to know based on your positioning. Got to get better at targets to closely clustered groups of receivers. Anytime you have a bunch, anytime you have receivers that are close together, tight twins, tight trips, triangle trips, whatever it may be. We saw it in the spring game, right? Terrence Brooks is no longer here, but they motion to tight twins. Texas is in cover 3. DB reads number 1 instead of reading number 2, who is supposed to be his key. And then Moore goes right down the field. Arch Manning throws deep pass touchdown. That was both the deep ball and targets to a closely clustered groups of receivers. And in 2023, over 80% completion percentage, targeting closely clustered groups of receivers. Money downs, you're still over 50% conversion rate. Targeting closely clustered groups of receivers on money downs. Explosive play rate is over 20% too. So you got to fix that. And that, by the way, that was an issue in 2022 versus Bama. Iowa State killed you. Using that, Washington killed you in the Alamo Bowl. Running basic targets to closely clustered receivers, targets to bunch formation. And it happened again in 2023. Empty formation. UTSA pretty much started it 2 years ago. And they were great out of empty formation. They ran like 20-something plays out of empty formation against Texas, and they were fantastic. I mean, Jeff Traylor is great. And Jeff Traylor, by the way, probably going to use that same blueprint when you play them this year. So it's relevant. And then Alabama copied it. Alabama, the reason Texas even lost to Alabama, actually, in 2022 at home is because their big adjustment was going to empty formation in the second half. Texas couldn't defend it. It was the adjustment they won in the game. They had 10 snaps of empty formation. I believe all of them were in the second half. 90% completion percentage on it. Bryce Young was brilliant out of it. And then other teams, K-State also used a lot of it versus Texas. And then in 2023, U of H took that blueprint. U of H was great out of empty, 85%, I think, completion percentage. TCU, they broke it out and were great on money downs versus Texas defense in empty formation. And then, of course, Washington in the Sugar Bowl. They used a lot of empty formation, over 11 yards per attempt out of empty. So they got to defend empty better. Empty is hell. Trust me on it. Empty it is hell on any defense. I think empty is probably the most stressful formation to defend, especially when there's a quarterback that can move around and run. Because you're exposed, and it's the ultimate stress because you're going to end up either in man or zero coverage. If you play zone, you're just asking for an easy completion underneath when you're in empty formation and all 5 receivers are available. So they got to have plans and solutions, built-in solutions for those 4 key areas. Deep ball, targets to closely clustered groups of receivers, inside breaking routes, and empty. If they don't, though, teams will just continue to use these concepts to move the football against Texas and convert against Texas. So if they're going to be a top 10 secondary, they got to solve at least 2 of these issues. Nobody can solve all of them. You're never going to make yourself, where you are infallible and you are not, you're not exposed in one way or another. All right, you'll be exposed in some way, but they can't continue to allow all of these concepts to be troublesome for them. Figure out 2. Solve the deep ball, solve the inside breaking routes. I think the 2 easiest would be inside breaking routes. I think that's just targets to bunch is tough. Defending bunch formation is really, really hard because you're just about passing off receivers in coverage. It's about the unspoken hive mind of communication with DBs. So experience plays a role in knowing how your fellow DB sees that route combination and when those routes declare themselves. So bunch is really tough. Targets close, that's really tough to do. Like I said, empty formation is really tough. Like I said, in the NFL, they haven't really figured out how to defend empty. Most of the time, you either blitz all out and try to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands quick, which is happening anyway. So it's automatic quick game, or you pray that your 3-man rush will get there and you can win with the numbers advantage with your 8 on their against their 5 receivers. But usually that means the quarterback's got way too much time. And if the quarterback's mobile, he can find a way to get easy yardage there too. So it's just those are the 2 toughest concepts I think to defend. I would work on fundamentally the deep ball. That's just you being more fundamentally sound and having a panic plan when the ball's in the air, and inside breaking routes. I think that's just leverage. And your initial leverage and position can deter a lot of routes pre-snap because the quarterback will look at you and go, damn, he's inside. All right, not throwing it inside routes. And then he'll automatically in his head move on through that progression, or they'll change the route combination altogether if it's an option route or if he has that ability at the line of scrimmage. So that's what it's going to take for Texas to become a top 10 secondary. All right, we come back. We'll get into what the facts, what the stats on the other side right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn.
Hey, what's up about our friends at Texan Windows? They are your new and replacement window experts in Central Texas. You can discover affordable windows and sliding glass doors. If you're looking to up your curb appeal, you're looking to get some nicer look on your home for the windows. Maybe you want some new colors. Maybe you want to change the operation of your windows. Maybe you want to have a nice picture window. Get rid of those grids. Get rid of the operable windows. Or maybe you just want to get a little bit more privacy and put some obscured glass out there where you can see out and they can't see in. You want to make your life a little bit more private. You can do that. All those options are available from Texan Windows, but it's not just about the looks.
Oh, it's not just about the looks, even though that's a great reason to get new windows from Texan Windows. It's also about saving money on your annual energy bills, because if you don't have energy efficient windows, they're not properly insulated. Folks, trust me, while your cool or your warm air is going right out the window, so are your savings. All right, just like money going right out the window. You don't want that. All the windows from Texan Windows are argon filled double pane low E glass. Fancy way of saying it's going to keep your house cool during those hot Texas summer days, which are fast approaching, those triple digits, and it's going to keep your house warm during those winter months as well. And that's what you get with replacement windows from Texan Windows. They're energy efficient, which means you're going to save money on your annual energy bills. And I got to tell you, folks, I'm a ball on the budget, and I could do a lot with those annual savings from Texan Windows. And you also can childproof and make sure that your windows have the latest safety protocols. I have an 8-month-old in the house, so we're childproof and everything. Safety has become a hot topic in our household. So to safeguard your loved ones and also to safeguard one of your biggest investments, your home, we're going to make sure that your windows are top notch. That's what Texan Windows can provide for you. And then Patrick will give you all the details on how you can reach out to Texan Windows.
Yes, you can get started at TexanWindows.com or call 855-55-TEXAN to get a hassle-free estimate by email or the phone, or you stop by their showroom in Buda, got a new one there, or in Fort Worth to check out their in-stock windows. And if you're looking into windows, you're thinking about it, now is the time to do it, because for the month of June through July 4th, when you make the purchase of 10 replacement windows, you'll be eligible to receive a free Blackstone grill. You get some new windows and a new grill. Be ready for summer. Be ready for the heat. Be ready for those great views and a great view of your yard and patio and whatever you want with our friends at Texan Windows. It's TexanWindows.com. Texan Windows, your Central Texas window experts.
All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time for What the Facts, What the Stats. Celtics lead the NBA Finals 3-0. And now the Panthers lead the Stanley Cup Final 3-0. 3-0 lead in both of those. Last time both final series had a 3-0 lead, 1996. The Bulls and the Avalanche. How about that? It's not good. Not very entertaining. But there you go. That's the one of our what the facts, what the stats. How about this too? It's a little nugget. So we'll be talking about the quarterback market here in just a second, because we'll talk about the Trevor Lawrence deal and how it's going to have an effect on the Dak Prescott contract negotiations with the Dallas Cowboys. How about this little factoid here? Since 2021, Dak Prescott has 31 wins as a quarterback. He's fourth behind Mahomes, Allen, and Jalen Hurts in the regular season. I mean, Cowboys been winning a lot of games in the regular season. I don't think we realize how many games they have. Just 12 wins. I mean, you don't. Matter of fact, they're probably the only team. I think I have that fact too. I'll pull it up. The only team in NFL history to win 12 games in 3 consecutive seasons like that and not make the NFC title game and not make the conference championship, I should say. You just really don't see teams that successful not be able to break through. So for the Cowboys, that's one of those facts that you don't really want to hear. But I'll get you I'll get you some of those stats.
This is the year. This is the year.
It's supposed to be the year because maybe Jerry Jones got everybody on the contract year. Maybe that's what Jerry Jones is thinking. This is the year. And if y'all don't do it, none of y'all coming back. Nobody's coming back.
We're changing it. We're changing it up,
which would be crazy. All right, there you go. So that's what the facts, what the stats. We come back. We will discuss indeed that new Trevor Lawrence deal and what effect it's going to have on the quarterback market, that same quarterback market that Dak is trying to get a new deal in as well. And we'll also get to behind the burnt orange curtain, and we'll talk a little Texas football. We'll talk about the premier playmakers for Texas on the defensive side of the ball. We'll also get into some of the other top stories of the day, a little NBA Finals preview. We know it's pretty much a done deal. Nobody comes back from down 0-3 in the NBA playoffs. The NBA playoff kiss of death. But we'll hear from Luka and preview Game 4 just a little bit tonight. Hopefully, the Mavs. I don't even know if do we want the Mavs to keep this thing alive? Do we want them to put the Mavs out of their misery?
You don't want to be swept. You don't want to be swept.
You don't want to be swept. Okay. All right. There you go. So we want the Mavs to at least have some pride, win one of these games. So we'll come back. We'll discuss it. We'll preview Game 4 on the other side as well. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Coming back on the Horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a 512 Friday, to be exact. A freak flag, feel good, fake it till you make it. Ric Flair, woo! 512 Friday edition of the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. He's the Idealionaire, and he comes up with all the musically themed days of the week. And 512 Friday is when he plays jams from local bands and artists, very talented human beings that you have a chance to catch live right here in the ATX. Who are jamming right now, Patrick?
This is the South Austin Moonlighters, and they are playing tonight at Saxon Pub.
Like that. Nice. All right. So also, Patrick wears many hats in addition to hooking us up with a 512 Friday. He also has the topics for the big fat poll of the day, which is now officially posted at the Horn ATX's X account. Give the folks the topic for the big fat poll of the day.
Big fat poll of the day. What is the most annoying sports cliche? I was hanging out with our old buddy BK this last weekend, and I mentioned one of these, and he cringed at it and said, "I hate that. I hate that cliche." He said, "There's your poll. What's the cliche you hate the most? What's the worst one?" So ask you guys. You can tell us on the text line 512-447-3776. I gave you a few options on the Horn X account as well, on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at the Horn ATX. You can also comment there and put in your favorite ones. There's too many to name, but we'll put a few up there for you.
There you go. All right, there you go. So check it out at the Horn ATX on X. My man Patrick's already got it posted up there for you. Okay, we'll get to this story about Trevor Lawrence, of course, signing a big blockbuster deal. We'll get to that here in just a second, and we'll discuss what that means for the Dak Prescott contract negotiations with the Dallas Cowboys. We'll also hear from Luka. Luka did have an interview, must have been after Game 3, and he was asked about his conduct and fouling out in Game 3, and we'll talk about that and hear from Luka and preview what is left of the NBA Finals. We'll do that, but before we do, let's get informed, let's get updated, let's get educated on all the top stories of the day first with my man Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars have agreed on a 5-year, $275 million contract extension on Thursday. The contract includes $200 million in guaranteed and now puts Lawrence under contract until 2030. The $55 million average salary in the deal ties him with Joe Burrow for the top mark in that category in the NFL. In the NBA, the Celtics can win the NBA championship tonight in a sweep over the Mavs in Game 4 of the Finals. No team has ever come back from a 3-0 deficit in the NBA playoffs to win the series. The Mavs will try to avoid being swept, though, being the 10th team in NBA history to be swept in the finals and the first since the Cavs in 2018. In Major League Baseball, the Astros will begin their series with the Tigers this evening, sending Hunter Brown to the mound, hoping to get a solid performance from the young pitcher against an early leader for the AL Cy Young, Tariq Skubal, who is 8-1 on the season with a 1.92 ERA. And the Rangers won their series with the Dodgers after a 3-1 victory last night. Wyatt Langford knocked in 2 runs in the game, and the Rangers' pitching was solid, with Lorenzen making it 7 innings, only allowing 1 run on a solo homer, and the bullpen getting 6 strikeouts in 2 innings pitched. The Rangers now move on to a big divisional series with the Mariners this weekend. That is your Horn Headlines.
All right. Thank you for the Horn Headlines there, Patrick. Let's get right to this story. Trevor Lawrence signing a huge deal, 5 years, $275 million deal with the Jags. His average annual salary now puts him tied with Joe Burrow for the top spot, $55 million per year. And his new contract, if you just go look at some of the details of it, he gets $200 million of it is going to be guaranteed. But the $200 million guaranteed, and 142 fully guaranteed, and $200 million guaranteed of his deal. That's the real money that matters in these NFL deals. So he is now essentially going to reset the quarterback market. He's not necessarily slotted. He's tied with Joe Burrow for the highest annual average salary for a quarterback at $55 million. And now if you're Dak Prescott and you're looking at this contract, you're thinking to yourself, all right, now if he can get 55 million, I think Dak's starting price right now is 55 million. Before that, I'm not sure if he started at 55 million, because the argument can always be made, about, whether a guy has achieved more and whether somebody has more statistical achievements. And if Trevor Lawrence can make the argument for 55 million, Dak Prescott certainly can and win that argument. So to me, this changes the conversation in their negotiation, because Dak's price tag now starts at 55 million. And then if another quarterback comes in and potentially over Trevor Lawrence that can reset the quarterback market, the only one, in my opinion, that could do that would probably be Patrick Mahomes. And the crazy thing about it, Patrick Mahomes is now close to being bumped out of the top 10 highest paid quarterbacks after signing that 10-year deal in 2020. So, Patrick Mahomes is not really even a factor in this. And that is even more evidence that the quarterback market is strictly based on the precedent of the previous franchise quarterback that signed the deal, not the best quarterback in the NFL and what they're being paid. That doesn't necessarily matter, because Kyler Murray is making more money than Patrick Mahomes, and so is Kirk Cousins, and so is Jared Goff.
Yeah,
yes, Jared Goff is third. Jared Goff is the second highest paid QB in the league right now.
Yeah, because he just got paid.
Just exactly. He just got, so Dak is gonna get, he's gonna get paid whatever the next starting quarterback, based on the previous deal, he's gonna get paid whatever the next franchise quarterback, I should say, not starting, franchise quarterback is going to get paid. And Dak's gonna get at least 55 million based on precedent, just based on Trevor Lawrence's deal. So if you're the Cowboys, the only thing I guess right now that could change this salary and change the price tag would be Mahomes getting an extension of some kind, or restructuring his deal and them making him the highest paid QB in the league and putting him in the $60 million range, which honestly, nobody would argue against that. They don't have to do it, but because they got team control over him for 10 years. But that's the only thing I could see. Tua's going to be up for a deal, and so is Jordan Love. But those guys aren't going to push to reset the quarterback market. I think they're going to be slotted. But honestly, Jordan Love, I think he's going to be. I mean, you can't pay Jordan Love more than you're paying Lamar Jackson. You think they'd go higher than 52 million for a young Jordan Love?
I don't think they
those guys
are going to make. I think they're going to make around 50, know. And they may more. But both of those, it's I think both of those, if they both are making 50, or if they're both making slightly above 50 a year, that doesn't help the Cowboys and Dak at all either. Because now you say, well, those guys are below me clearly, and they're making that much. But they don't have the statistical records that I have, and they also don't have Super Bowl rings. They also don't have those things, so they don't have, and they're also so you need to pay me like I need to reset the market.
He's all pro. I mean, he was second in the MVP voting this year. Dak's got more leverage. Even Adam Schefter said he's got more leverage than any player in the league right now in any negotiation, and the Cowboys have almost none. They have almost no leverage. So we have. Unless the Cowboys are willing to go doomsday scenario on this thing and let Dak hit free agency, which I don't think they're willing to do, they need to accept the reality that they're going to pay top dollar. Today's price is not yesterday's price. It sucks, but it's just the reality of it. You're going to pay top dollar for Dak Prescott. So Trevor Lawrence, you can make the argument that Trevor Lawrence doesn't deserve this deal. Like, you can make that argument if you want to, based on the lack of achievement overall in the postseason, and you can make that argument based on the statistical comparison to other quarterbacks out there. I would just say this, devil's advocate for those who are saying Trevor Lawrence don't deserve that deal. Go look at him. His stats are comparable to Daniel Jones and Gardner Minshew and stuff like that. And I'm not disagreeing with you if you want to put up that statistical comparison. Guys, don't forget his first year, Urban Meyer. Wasn't it Urban with him?
Yeah, right.
That first year? Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe so. Man, we forget about that because it was such a disaster. It was such a flustercluck of a move and a year. Think about your rookie season. Think about what that does to a rookie quarterback, being around that kind of dysfunction, being around that kind of culture. I think it really did poison the developmental well a little bit with him. And so I think I think they almost, as an organization, make his second year in terms of his evaluation. That's that's his rookie year in their opinion. Because I think they saw so much of the, like I said, overall dysfunction of the franchise, such toxicity there. I mean, this guy was kicking. He was kicking kickers. I mean,
man.
you know what I mean? He was kicking kickers, doing all that. I mean, we have no idea what he was doing there in terms of the ineptitude and the incompetence that they said was rampant all throughout the franchise there, and then they just got rid of him and got Doug Peterson. So I bet Doug Peterson was a big advocate of him getting this deal and saying, listen, man, we just started with this guy. That Urban Meyer, that rookie year, forget about that year. When I got here with him, that's when his development really started as a quarterback. And let's judge him from that. And I think maybe that's why they said, no, the upside's there. We've seen enough of it. Did he regress last year? Maybe at the injuries last year. See, every year it's something. That's why he hasn't really, I think, in my opinion, totally been able to reach his ceiling as a player. It was Urban Meyer his first year. That was the issue, right? I mean, that type of, like I said, dysfunction all around you. It's really hard for a young quarterback. And then you had the injury last year. So his best year was his second year, but that was under a fresh start under a new head coach, Doug Peterson, a quarterback guy. And he had 4,100 yards, 25 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Led the Jags to a late season surge, and they won the AFC South. Beat the Chargers in the wild card round. That was a crazy, wacky game. And then year 3, they thought it was going to be a breakout campaign, but you saw a little bit of regression. 14 interceptions, only 21 touchdowns, so fewer touchdowns, more interceptions. Jags missed the playoffs, and a big reason was because he got hurt late and had a rash of injuries late in the season. So first year, Urban Meyer. Last year, injuries. And the good year you're looking at here as the year that gives you optimism about his potential upside as a player is that in the second year, when you had stability, you didn't have injuries, and he had Doug Peterson, quarterback guy, Super Bowl winning coach, as his coach, that you saw the best of Trevor Lawrence. And I think they're hoping that if they can replicate that without the injuries, without the dysfunction, they can get Trevor Lawrence to continue to develop and get a playoff caliber quarterback year after year. So that's for those, though. I'm not saying that you're wrong if you're criticizing this deal for Trevor Lawrence. I'm just, and on top of that, he was one of the highest graded quarterback prospects of all time, and he was the number 1 overall pick. Those guys, they get the benefit of that when it comes to their upside.
Yeah, I think too, there's something to be said of what division they're in, and they realize we can't not have a quarterback in this division now. And Trevor Lawrence may not be the best, but we'll pay him early. We know it'll even out. The salary will end up evening out. He'll drop down to be the 6th, 7th, 8th highest paid by the time he's 2-3 years in the contract. So we'll be fine with that. And then you take into the account the fact that you look in that division now has a young Anthony Richardson in Indianapolis. It has a young CJ Stroud in Houston. Then you say it maybe has depending on what Will Levis is in Tennessee, they have a young quarterback they're trying to push, that you don't want to get stuck falling behind that and then trying to find a quarterback for the next 3 or 4 years while you're just getting mollywopped in that division over and over again. You like to stay competitive, and you figure Trevor Lawrence at least keeps you in the conversation for winning that division still every year. So it may not be the best, but when you say we don't want to end up being non-existent, because we're not, as a business owner, as Shahid Khan will be the guy who owns the team, he understands if we're not relevant at all, we're not competing. Sure. That makes it much harder for me to make money as a business owner than if we have a quarterback that is marketable, people like him enough, we can go stick him out there and we'll try to win Super Bowls, but we can't be falling behind and hoping to get another guy because we've been there before and it doesn't always work out.
Yeah, you're right about that. And he wants to sell that brand internationally too. Got to have a QB if you want to sell the brand internationally. Man, at 2021 draft class for quarterbacks, man, listen to it. Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson traded. Trey Lance has been traded since. Then Justin Fields been traded since. Then Mac Jones. So all those guys traded since.
He's Trevor Lawrence's backup.
Oh, that's right. I forgot all about that. Great point. So all those guys have been traded since. Those are all your first round picks. So every first round pick that year, except for Trevor Lawrence, has been traded. Then Kyle Trask was their second round quarterback. Then there's Kellen Mond in the third round. Davis Mills in the third round. Hell, Davis Mills might have been the second best quarterback in that class potentially. Then you got Ian Book and then Sam Ehlinger, actually. Shout out to my man Bam Bam Sam, round 6. But the top of that class is a disaster, other than Trevor Lawrence. All those guys have been traded. So I would just say this, though, about the Dallas Cowboys and this quarterback situation. If you're Jerry Jones at this point, I guess it doesn't matter as much anymore. Because like I said, you're gonna pay him $55 million now. At least maybe this is what Jerry Jones was talking about when he said I need leaves to fall. Because you're gonna pay him $55 million now. Yeah. Ain't no negotiation, in my opinion. Dak's not gonna take less than $55 million. I'd be shocked if he's paid less than $55 million. I honestly, I don't. There's no way that number goes below that. So at least now you know this. And like I said, the only person, it kind of reminds me of the CD contract when Justin Jefferson, signed his deal. See, wide receiver is so different though. Like wide receiver is a little bit different. I guess when you're the wide receiver one, when you're up now, we're starting to see more of that respect. But wide receiver market's a little bit different than quarterback. It just doesn't have the same recent history of respecting the precedent of the franchise quarterback. If that is your franchise quarterback and it's been established and you have asserted that and declared that's your franchise guy, when they're up, they get top dollar. It's just, and that's why Patrick Mahomes is down on this list. That's why he's 10th on this list now. It's just because he signed his deal so long ago. It's just that simple. He signed his deal of $45 million a year. That was in 2020, and now we're in 2024, and that's the reason Kirk Cousins is now ranked ahead of him, and Deshaun Watson, and Kyler Murray, and Jalen Hurts, and Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Jared Goff, Joe Burrow, Triple. And I got to go look, Patrick, but I will say it probably is the case of this top 10 here. It's probably the case for maybe at least half of them, probably more than half, that when they signed their new deal, they were the highest paid at the time when they signed it.
Yeah, that probably, right? Yeah.
It was because I know Lamar Jackson was when he signed his. Patrick Mahomes, I think you're right about him. When he signed his, it was at the time he was the highest paid. So I bet, and then Trevor Lawrence, of course, Joe Burrow, of course. I bet if you look at it, about for half of them, maybe 6 of the 10, when they signed it, it was the highest paid. So it gives Dak even more of an argument, like, hey. And I'm sure the agents will be like, man, when these guys signed, 60% of the guys that signed their new deals, they were the highest paid at the time. They weren't slotted. Kirk Cousins was slotted in there. Deshaun Watson was the highest paid, right? When he signed his. So it's Dak's going. I don't even know what we're talking about here. I have no idea what the Cowboys are waiting on. I really don't.
No, I mean,
unless they actually want Dak to prove himself in the playoffs. And if he doesn't prove himself in the playoffs, they're going to move on. And that is a hell of a gamble. That is a hell of a gamble.
Yeah. No, I get it's the biggest gamble is if it works out, you're extra screwed. But I guess at a certain point, you can say, well, what are we going to do? It's going to be 60 instead of 55 if he wins the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Like, we're already making him the highest paid. He's the highest paid. Now, the problem is if Patrick Mahomes re-signs before then.
And he signed some crazy $65 million.
Yeah. And then
you're like, oh, damn it.
Yeah.
But I still, you're right. Still, the max is going to be 60. You're not going to pay him what Patrick Mahomes is being paid. So maybe Jerry Jones is a genius, and he's just like, listen, the dude's got to get paid regardless. Why not use the incentive of the contract year?
Yeah.
We know all across sports, no matter what sport you're playing, baseball, football, basketball, hockey, all right, don't matter. All right. If it's a Quidditch, it don't matter. When it is a contract year, most of the time you get a great performance, or you get one of that athlete's best performances in their career. I've seen some people they used to track it and go and look at like a player's 7-8 year career if they've signed multiple contracts.
Yeah.
And look at their stats in their contract years and go, damn, that's These guys they're playing for the money. Of course they are. Hey man, you got to go all out. It's a contract year. So maybe Jerry Jones just wants everybody playing like it's a contract year. Everybody. Will it blow up in his face if they don't reach the NFC title game Super Bowl? Yeah, I guess it could blow up in your face then, because then you got to pay all your what you think are underachievers, or you need to draw the line in the sand and actually decide, all right, I'm gonna let those guys walk and let them hit free agency, which I think, except still, that's ill-advised. So yeah, it's a threat, but maybe it pays off for the Cowboys. Maybe everybody plays for their contract lives and coaches for their contract lives, because he still got a lamed up coach in Mike McCarthy, and Zimmer's on a 1-year deal too. So maybe it works out for the Cowboys and they get to the Super Bowl and then everybody gets paid what they were going to get paid anyway. Jerry's like, see, I have to motivate him.
Dak is not as crazy as CD is. CD was the one that you're like, you could have done this, a year ago and saved probably 6 a year. Yeah. Because the contract, it's just going up so fast that you could have made him, like, you could have easily put him at like 29-30 a year ago and he would have been happy. And now you're at 35.
Agreed. Jamar Chase is still out there.
Yeah. And so at the end of the season, they win a Super Bowl. He may reset the market. And I know, or at least push Justin Jefferson.
Well, if he has a year, has an all-pro year, first team all-pro again, then he's going to make that argument. And if Dak, dude, you take the chance that Dak will win. I'm not saying Dak's going to win MVP, but if Dak has like an MVP year, he was just second in MVP voting. That's an MVP year with him and who's going to be his number one target, CD. I mean, those values just skyrocketing for you. And then you may have some hurt feelings in that too. You never know. Hurt feelings is going to come into play here where, you know what? No, I don't want to be with y'all anymore. Right?
Yeah.
I showed what I can do in a contract year. Now I want to go somewhere else and show what I'm worth, because you guys didn't see my value. If y'all saw my value, y'all would have paid me. I wouldn't even have to get to this contract year. You could have some of that too, which you also want to. Most of the time, players, if they get the money they want, ask Lamar Jackson, they forget about all the hurt feelings. Just give me my money. Get my money. That's all I want anyway. Why y'all try to make it so difficult? So we'll see. But Dak's new price tag, ladies and gentlemen, $55 million. It's a lot of straight cash. And then CD's price tag is now at least 30?
Yeah, his is somewhere around 32, 33, I think.
33 million for that. And what's going to be Micah's price tag? Micah's just sitting back watching everything.
Micah wants to be the highest paid so his is 36.
Non-quarterback. So that's Justin Jefferson, right?
Yeah, so 36 over Justin Jefferson 35, so 36.
So we're talking about 36, 33, and 55.
Woo!
For 3 players. And the salary cap is going up, and you got the sports gambling revenue that's adding to that, and the revenue pie just continues to grow for the NFL. But that's a lot of money for 3 players. It's a lot of money for 3 players, and that's for a team that builds through the draft. Yeah, that was a team that builds through the draft and still paying a top dollar for all those. It's a good thing because you develop that talent, and they're the best players in the league at their positions.
Yeah.
But you got to pay them like it. That's why you see the Chiefs were like, nah, we're going to trade Tyreek because we ain't paying everybody top dollar.
We'll trade
now
Steve.
We'll trade. Yeah, they paid Chris Jones. Well, they paid Kelsey just recently. They still got to pay. I'm serious. There's no way Brett Veach is going to let Patrick Mahomes continue to make $45 million a year and be right now bumped out of the top 10. That's just, you can't have that.
Yeah.
I honestly, and I'm not saying this as a Texans fan who wants them to have to deal with the disadvantage of paying a quarterback a lot of the salary cap money, but $45 million for the best QB in the league. No, you got to do something about that. I don't even know if that is there any league whose best, I guess sometimes as a rookie, I'm talking about not as on their rookie deal, but once they've passed up their rookie deal and they've signed a new deal and they've established themselves as the best player in the league, and the NBA is a little different because you got the max contracts and all that. But is there any other league where the best player in that sport is like the 10th highest paid?
I don't know.
After they sign their new deal? That's rare.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen like that. It just does. Usually if you're signing a new deal and you're the best player in the sport, you get, top dollar. That's not happening for the Chiefs, and trust me, the Chiefs are happy about it. That's a big advantage, folks. That's a huge advantage. And they just paid Kelsey. I brought this up too. The reason Kelsey was a great bargain in discounts because he was giving you wide receiver 1 production. As we know, that costs you top dollar. It may cost you $30-something million a year, and he was doing it for top 5 tight end money. Great bargain. The deal that Patrick Mahomes signed, he signed a 10-year deal. Most players are trying to sign short deals to get back to free agency quicker or get back to the market quicker so they can make more money, signing more contracts. This dude signed a 10-year deal. They got control of him for 10 years till 2030. They have control of the best player in football for the next 6 years if they want to. Now, like I said, they'll probably work out something to restructure him to give him what he is deserving of. But that's why they can three-peat. That's why they can win 3 in a row. Those are huge advantages that no other team can replicate. You can't replicate that contract with your guy.
No.
The Cowboys would love for Dak to sign something like that. Dak's like, nah, man, I want a shorter deal. I want a shorter deal to get back to free agency quick as I can. And you got Patrick Mahomes doing Tim Duncan type deals and Tom Brady type deals where he's giving the hometown discount. And that's the most player-friendly deal in the league. Period. Ain't even close. It might be the most player-friendly deal in major American team sports for a superstar.
Yeah, so I'll throw you a couple of the NBA was looking up their salaries for this year. So Jokic is the 4th highest paid player at $47 a year.
That's lower than I thought he'd be.
Well, so the big deal about NBA is you can make more in your max the longer
as
you're in.
Stay with the teams.
So the top 3
right?
or not stay with teams, but your years in service in the NBA.
Yeah, okay.
So your top 3 are Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, and LeBron James. They've all been around forever. They just can make more. Their max contract's worth more than what Jokic is. So Jokic is making the max he can, but Steph Curry's making 51, and LeBron and Jokic are making the same, and Durant's making a little bit more, but they're all around 47. Then Luka Doncic is 16th at 40.
That's wild, actually.
And then SGA, who is also in the MVP voting, is at 33. He is 34th in the league.
Now that is crazy.
So if you talk
SGA, what deal is he on? Is he on his?
He'll be getting another one soon, but his is also he didn't really step up to be that top person and get all NBA teams until like last year. His max contract is a little less, and then he didn't get but he'll get paid.
He'll get paid. I'm surprised at Luka though being that far down. I didn't realize Luka was that far down. Considering he's been for all NBA first team 5 out of 6
and he's still
years?
he's still only $7 million a year behind the top guys, but it's also he's 25.
Like big gap. Yeah, he's young, like you said, vested.
So his next contract will be more. He'll get that super max and be up there.
Okay. Yeah, no, like I said, when is Patrick Mahomes going to? I mean, he can do it anytime he wants. All he has to do is say the word. He has to just give a hint. If he just gives a hint or a clue that he wants a new deal, he'll get it. But I think he's fine with it right now. I think he's fine with just winning championships. It's just upsetting for the rest of the NFL because we need him to be upset about that so that they don't have such a great bargain and the best value arguably in the league. All right, so there you go. Trevor Lawrence, Dak Prescott really happy about Trevor Lawrence getting that new deal, makes Dak Prescott's argument to be $55 million quarterback or the highest paid quarterback in the league. It makes it a whole lot more realistic. All right, we come back. We'll get into some Texas football conversation. We'll go behind the burnt orange curtain. Bert Auburn. Are we underrating Bert Auburn? Bert Auburn's getting some love on some way too early All-American teams. I'll tell you, if Bert Auburn is an All-American, well, that's probably a bad thing for Texas. And we'll talk about the premier playmakers on defense for Texas, the players with the highest havoc rate and the most havoc plays. We'll discuss that on the other side right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Let's talk about Dr. Greg Eckert and his wonderful team. They do a great job. I can testify to this because no matter why I've had to go to Dr. Yu and visit his team, could be just for a routine checkup or just for a cleaning, filling. I've had to have all my wisdom teeth removed each and every time. They do a fantastic job. And thanks to them, my dental health, dental hygiene have never been better. So I encourage you, whether it's you're going there for just general dentistry, or you're going there for teeth whitening, or dentures, or porcelain crowns, or veneers, dental implants, full mouth reconstruction, even root canal therapy, or to have all your wisdom teeth removed, like I had to at the age of 40. But that's okay because they will make sure they take care of you, and they do it. They do a great job, whatever it takes to ensure you're getting the best quality dental care available. That's what you get with Dr. Yu. So you're talking about the best dentist in Austin, in my opinion. So anytime somebody asks me for a recommendation for a dentist, I am happy to give it. Dr. Eckert does a great job. He's always on the cutting edge of the technological advances in general dentistry. And because of that, right now he can give you a brand new smile in just one day. No time spent without teeth. You'll get temporary fixtures until they complete your permanent smile, and you'll smile again with confidence and eat freely without pain or discomfort. We're talking about a lifelike permanent solution. So if you've been told your teeth need to be replaced, just call Dr. Yu today to learn about this revolutionary alternative to dentures. It's a brand new smile in just one day. It sounds too good to be true. It's not. It's just Dr. Yu. It's a complimentary consultation, so you got nothing to lose but everything to gain, because a confident smile can truly change your life, and Dr. Eckert wants to change your life for the better. So give him a call, 512-345-3166. That's 512-345-3166, or visit dreckert.com, drueckert.com. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into some Texas football conversation here. A couple of things I want to bring up. I want to talk about the premier playmakers based on had the havoc metric that Texas will be returning next year in the secondary. But Pro Football Focus, they put out their way too early All American team, and there is a Longhorn listed. But the Longhorn listed actually was a bit surprising, and it shouldn't be surprising actually, but it was a little surprising. Bird Auburn, the kicker, who's now on scholarship, so congrats to Bird Auburn. Bird Auburn made the list, and I actually not surprising. I remember saying that we were on the On Texas Football live stream, and we were discussing what players for Texas could end up being first team All SEC players and get All SEC recognition. And I remember saying to myself, Bird Auburn might be. And I haven't done my research on kickers in the SEC, but he might be the safest bet, other than like Kelvin Banks. But even Kelvin Banks, guys, LSU's got 2 tackles that are going to be both first round picks. Hell, you got Georgia and Alabama. They got tackles too. Who are going to potential guys who have first round upside. Ain't no guarantee that he's going to be the best tackle. Now, I think he is, but that's not a guarantee. Kicker might be the safest bet if you're looking at who's going to be first team All SEC next year. If you had to put money on it right now, I think he might be the safest bet. I think Kelvin Banks is probably the next one. But like I said, go look. LSU's got a tackle that's rated higher than Kelvin Banks coming out in the draft. So Bird Auburn, and I'll say this: if Bird Auburn is getting All-American recognition next year, I don't think the red zone offense improved as much as we need. So I don't want to hate on Bird Auburn, but I'm going to say this: I don't want Bird Auburn to be an All-American, because I think if he's an All-American, because I think he can have great stats and be highly efficient. But if listen, Bird Auburn last year, guys, he was taking as many field goals as any kicker in the Power 5 late in the season, because Sark, I think, in a very smart way, adjusted his mentality. It wasn't so aggressive. He kind of adjusted his aggressiveness index and decided, since we're such a bad red zone offense, I've tried to fix this for multiple weeks, and I am pretty good at what I do, and I can't fix it. We got a quarterback that's going to play in the NFL. We got 3 receivers that were drafted into the NFL. Got an NFL tight end, NFL running back, biggest O-line in the conference, and still I can't get the football into the end zone once we get inside the 20 and the 10. I can't figure it out. We can't do it. So I think it was a great and smart adjustment by him in 1 game. We decided I'll just take the points. I got to take the points. I can't keep giving up points and then letting teams come back into the game and get a chance to win. Because we were too aggressive and it blew up in our face. So I'm glad that Sark made that adjustment, but this year I'm hoping. And listen, the red zone is a mystery, and it's not a problem yet, but it will be if the red zone offense gets worse. You think, how could it get worse than last year? I agree with you. But think about this. When Sark first got here, the red zone efficiency, you were top 5 in the country. Touchdown percentage in the red zone and in red zone offense. You were top 5 in the country in 2021 when you weren't as talented. And then you drop down to like probably 50th and 90th in 2022. And then last year you were 120th in like 98th.
Yeah.
So you've actually, as your team has gotten better, you've gotten worse in the red zone. I don't know one theory is that first of all, it's multifactorial, but it could be a Bijan Rojo thing. I think a lot, you go look at it. He got very Bijan Rojo heavy and centric in the red zone in his first 2 years. And why wouldn't you? It makes life easy on you. And I think for him, as a play caller, he's been, I don't know. I just think at times it's been challenging for him to try to figure out when. And by the way, it's easier to play defense in the red zone. Field is compressed. His offense is built on spacing and built on being able to threaten teams with speed. All of that's nullified in the red zone. I ain't got to worry about Xavier Ward. He's 4'2", because he can only run 10 to 15 yards anyway. I ain't got to worry about it. All right. So a lot of the things that advantages and cheat codes for Sark are nullified and mitigated in the red zone. And I think he's had a little bit of trouble post Bijan and Rojo dealing with some of those challenges. I think that's part of it.
Oh, yeah. No, and that's I was going to say was that first, like, just remember Bijan was there and Rojo, and that definitely adds something to it. But if you're supposed to be the offensive guru, you're supposed to have another solution and be able to push out and find other guys. And is it the question of you had a guy that was so undeniable, he made you simplify it so you scored more? Or is it that you really didn't have options and he made bad plays good? But it could be a combination of of both of those too, that you're overcomplicating it now because you think, well, we don't have Bijan anymore, so we have to do this. We have to run a double reverse, triple flip over, and then we're going to run a distraction over there, and then we're going to send out our D tackle, but he's going to be a decoy on this side, and then we'll go out and our 6-0 lineman is going to come out to the left side, and then we'll hit him right open, touchdown.
Simple enough, right?
Simple enough.
No, you could be right about that. I think ultimately it does kind of some of the troubles they do link back to Bijan and Rojo just being such great problem solvers, and ultimately, like you said, you can just give it to those guys and they would find a way to work it out. And now, maybe he's just struggling with his identity and what that is, because sometimes he wants to play bully ball, and sometimes he wants to, outwit the defense and confuse them and overload their circuitry with all these different cheat codes and preset motions and shifts. Sometimes he's trying to outsmart the defense. Sometimes he's trying to overpower the defense. And I don't think he hadn't figured out what they want to be in the red zone yet, but it's fine. I mean, they're still scoring plenty of points. Top 15 offense last year, but they were top 15 in scoring offense, guys, and they were 120th in touchdown percentage in the red zone. Could you imagine if they were just 65th in touchdown percentage in the red zone instead of being 120th? That's a top 10, top 5 offense. So this year, if he fixes that, they can end up leading the SEC in scoring just because they fixed the red zone issues, which obviously we've talked a lot about, and we will talk more about that. But let's talk havoc plays and players. So havoc plays, I've talked about this splash plays for the defense, right? Interception, passes defended, tackle for loss, sack, interceptions, forced fumbles, fumble recoveries. Those are your splash plays by the defense. So in calculating havoc plays, just calculate those plays, add them up, and havoc rate works the same way. So I looked at the players for Texas with the most havoc plays, so the most havoc-minded defenders. And Jahdae Barron, he's the guy, right? The last 2 years, he's been first this past year and then second in 2022 in havoc plays. Jalen Ford led the team, no surprise there, in havoc plays in 2022 because he had that spectacular year. He had 19 havoc plays. DeMarvion Overshown and Jahdae Barron were tied with 15. This past season, Jahdae Barron had 11 and a half havoc plays, and then second behind him were Ethan Burke and Anthony Hill, both with 11 havoc plays. And the only other player with double-digit havoc plays was actually Jaron Thompson, but he's leaving. Terrence Brooks was almost there. He had 9. Thompson had 10, almost 11, 10 and a half. So those are the two guys who were close. The next closest in havoc plays, they're leaving. Really tough for a lot of D tackles to, obviously Texas D tackles were great last year, the best D tackle combo in the country, but tough for them to get havoc plays. They don't get a chance to get interceptions. They don't get a chance to get a lot of forced fumbles where plays, where impact plays, where you're closing on defender and you can knock the ball loose. They get some of those, but not a lot, not a ton. So even though those players are some of your better players, they don't necessarily have the opportunity for havoc plays. So this is more a stat about the every other position, the edges and the back seven. It's more about everything except the D tackle. So it's my slight on D tackles, but usually you don't see D tackles making a ton of havoc plays. So who's going to be the players that join Jahdae Barron, Anthony Hill, and Ethan Burke, and in terms of guys who can accumulate double-digit havoc plays, double-digit splash plays for the defense? I think Malik Muhammad's going to be in that conversation. I think Trey Moore should also be in that conversation. You should add 2 more. In addition to these guys staying, I think Anthony Hill's going to make more plays. Jahdae Barron should make more plays. Ethan Burke should make more plays than he did last year. Honestly, Taft Daddy makes a lot of plays. Taft Daddy's had 7.5, 3 interceptions last year. He makes a lot of plays. So I wouldn't doubt if Taft Daddy, now more familiarity with the offense, now more trust with the system and the defense, more trust from the coaches. I wouldn't doubt that Michael Taft ends up making a few more plays in terms of havoc plays, and he gets to double digit. You could have 2 to 3 more players get to double-digit havoc plays. If you get to that, then you're talking about a team that could lead the country, right, or be one of your national or conference leaders in havoc plays. If you go look at last year, Oklahoma was great last year in the Big 12. I think they were actually one of your leaders in havoc plays in the Big 12. And Texas wasn't bad. Remember, Texas was top 10 in interceptions. They had 16 interceptions last year. Oklahoma had 20. Got their hands on a lot of footballs last season. When you look at opposing teams based on last year's havoc rate that Texas is going to play this year, and I thought Michigan would be the top team in havoc rate that Texas is going to play. That'll be one of the best defense, if not the best defense they play in 2024. But Michigan was second in havoc rate behind the Aggies, A&M. The highest havoc rate of teams from last season of teams that Texas will play in 2024. And then the Sooners are right behind them. So you got the Aggies, the Michigan Wolverines, and the Sooners all top three the highest havoc rates on upcoming opponents you're going to play in 2024. And actually, Arkansas made it into the top 5 too. So all of your rivals are top 5 in terms of havoc rate created on defense last season. That means they make a lot of splash plays. If you're Texas, that's what you want to limit. You want to limit those splash plays for the defense. All right, there you go. So some Texas football conversation. We come back. We'll get into a little off the record on the other side. Some wacky sports stories from the sports world, sometimes beyond the sports world. All that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. Some Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babies coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into a little off the record. So apparently, Conor McGregor is pulling out of the latest UFC event, UFC 303.
Yeah, it's supposed to be at the end of the month.
Yeah, he's out.
Yes,
Says here that he's out of the event. It's Conor McGregor. I mean, I said that they said the rematch could be announced, like not the rematch, but they said the they could set the date, the announcement of I don't know when and why this is happening and why he's pulling out, but I don't see any details on why it's happening.
Yeah, I saw it just was announced either last night or this morning. I think it was announced.
I guess the injury. They said the injury. Well, they said it might be because of an injury. That's what.
Yeah, that's. I had read that it was an injury, but it was. Yeah, it sucks, but that's kind of been the thing with McGregor is, is it steroids and that he's on? He got all big all of a sudden, and then he had to cycle off of that before he could come back and get tested. So there's this whole point of when he could schedule the fight because he basically had to make sure he was testing clean before he came back, and then it becomes as you get older, Father Time is undefeated, and you start trying to go into those trainings, and the more you train, the more you ramp it up, the more you are at risk of injury when you get older, and it's especially when you've done things to your body where you've gained weight and lost weight and gained muscle mass and lost muscle mass and all of that. It's hard to maintain a healthy body at that point.
Yeah, they said they are looking to rebook the fight. I guess later.
Yeah, UFC it definitely is. They want to make that money.
Yeah, exactly. So they're looking to rebook it, but yeah, for right now, it was Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler, I believe, was the fight scheduled. So there you go. That news just broke not too long ago. So that is a little bit off the record, but still talking sports. All right, here's a couple of off the record stories. So did you hear that? I don't know why Rob Schneider called out Will Smith. Did you hear this? Why is Rob Schneider calling out Will Smith? Why is he mad at Will Smith all of a sudden?
Because he wants to be famous, and he's just not famous enough, and he wants to be.
Rob Schneider's not famous. I know Rob Schneider. He's not famous enough. He called Will Smith a liar and a complete and utter fraud. Basically saying that he's been living a lie. He didn't. I don't know the detail. You know if he got into detail about it, but I guess he's not a Will Smith fan. Well, he made a watch, man. Will Smith will slap people that's talking bad on him. That is documented. And so if he sees you, Rob Schneider, you might get slapped. I watch out, man. Don't mess with Will Smith no more. You're getting some street cred after slapping Chris Rock. I'm sure they buried the hatchet though after that. Man, remember how surreal that was? They went up there and said we all thought it was like a stunt.
I saw the clip of it the other day, and you forget how everyone was laughing, and then he walks up, and you're like, "Oh, it's a bit. It's a bit." It's and, exactly. And then he slaps him, and you're like, "And that was it." You can't tell until he says, "Keep my wife's."
Keep my wife's name out your
until he says that, and then you're like, "Oh, I don't think that's if that's a joke, it's not landing." It's not
exactly right. Guys, yeah, he's right. Everybody careful.
You have to go back and rewrite some rewrites on this, guys.
It's like, Will is really dedicated to the bit here, man. He's a great actor, and then he won Best Actor. You remember that?
Yes.
At the slap, that was a surreal moment. Is that he actually won Best Actor after slapping Chris Rock? Oh man, what a moment!
Anyway, and then watching the entire audience laugh at the joke, and Will Smith laugh at it, and I'm in trouble.
Yeah. He looked at Wifey, and Wifey was like, "I don't think that's funny. You need to go. You need to go take up for me. You need to go defend my honor." And hell, man, he did. That was an old school slap too. My thing was, I still say this about Chris Rock. Dude, when somebody, since it wasn't a bit, when a grown man approaches you after you have just insulted him, whether it be just in jest or whatever, insulted him or insulted his wife, when he starts walking towards you, I'm gonna need your spidey sense to kick up a notch. Chris Rock just stood there. It was like, Will Smith is like 6'2". He's an imposing dude, just walking towards you after you just insulted him, and you didn't sense, something's off here, man. Let me back up. Let me get in my fighting stance. Let me do something. He just stood there smiling. I was like, man, you've been in Hollywood too long, Chris Rock. You've been in Hollywood too long. Because if you're from the hood, you already know somebody walking over you like that. Like, hold on, let me back on up, man. Let me get in my stance. Let me get ready to duck and dodge here. We just stood there smiling at Will Smith. And Smith, by the way, cocked back on him. You should remember that?
Yeah.
He cocked back. It wasn't like it was a quick slap. No, he cocked back the hand and then slapped you full throttle with the whole motion, and you didn't duck, you didn't do nothing, you just sat there surprised, mouth open. Come on, man. Come on. I need you to have a little bit more wherewithal, have some instincts about you. Come on, Chris Rock. You've been in Hollywood too long, man. So Will Smith in the wrong, but Chris Rock has lost all of his street smarts and all of you expect to get slapped, but still in this day and age, y'all know when somebody walking towards y'all aggressively. You even see his eye like, oh, I like the person walking towards me. That's a little aggressively. I just insulted him and his wife. Why is he coming up here? It wasn't a bit, Chris Rock. You should have been knowing. It's not
you
a
were
bit.
the only one who knew it wasn't a bit.
Yes.
You and Will Smith knew. Everyone else did.
It's not a bit. Why are you still just standing there with your mouth open? Like, nah, I would have retreated. If you know you weren't going to fight, just keep walking back. Be like, nope, I'm leaving the stage.
I don't know. Maybe Rob Schneider and Chris Rock are still friends and he's mad about it.
It could be that because then Rob Schneider do that
well, they were on SNL.
movie.
They were on SNL together.
Yeah, and they also did some movies here. It's the Grown Ups. Yeah.
Well, so every Adam Sandler movie that Rob Schneider just gets cast in.
Hey, but it's great to be friends with Adam Sandler. Being a friend of Adam Sandler is like being a friend of LeBron or a friend of Aaron Rodgers. They take care of you.
Yeah. Well, one of those is not like the other.
That is true. But I'm just saying, if you're a friend of LeBron, you might be the head coach of the Lakers. You're a friend of Aaron Rodgers. You might get a job, even though you shouldn't make an NFL roster because he just likes you around.
No, you can be that, but then you also have to sit and listen to Aaron Rodgers. So,
so Nathaniel Hackett is paying a price for that.
Yeah, there's something to be said if you just sit there and you're like, no, I get it, dude. No, you're right, Aaron.
You're right.
Aaron, I don't know why you're not president, Aaron. Oh, okay. How much that contract for? All right, Aaron. No, Aaron.
That is true.
You're right. World hunger could be solved. I didn't know. All right.
You're going to listen to all the conspiracy theories and everything from it, and you can't say he's wrong. You can't say that.
You know he's a guy that you're at a restaurant. You're just like trying to get the waiter to get another round of drinks, and he just keeps talking. He's like, let me finish my thought. And you're like, oh, I'm sober, man. At least let me get drunk for this, Aaron.
Seriously. Oh, man. It may just be that simple. That's why him and his family fell out, too. It's like, oh, man, I just can't be around.
Every Christmas, every present. Oh, I didn't know that you supported products that if you actually knew the politics of the chief operating officer of this the plant in Syracuse that ships this out, maybe you think differently before you brought this product next time.
Yeah, seriously, he's definitely calling people out.
I saw a podcast about this, and
now I'm an expert.
And
yes, once I podcasted, I'm an expert after that. Yes, that's why I'm an expert on like 15 different things. Oh, man, I love it. All right, we come back. We'll get into some of the other top stories. We'll cyberstalk our ex a little bit. Of course, we're all excited about going to the SEC celebration, Pitbull performing. It's all gonna be good. So we're shacked up with another. But every now and then, you cyberstalk your ex, and if you're cyberstalking the Big 12. Texas X, you'll see they're engaging in some pretty wild behavior, at least considering some pretty wild options. We'll talk about that. We'll also get into Rod's rant of the day. That will be another Texas football rant. Pro Football Focus showing the Longhorns some love on their D-line and in their secondary. Could we all be underrating this Texas defense going into the SEC? We'll discuss it on the other side right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn, Rod Babers here. We all love the city of Austin. What's not to love? Great people, great culture, great food, great music. And as our city continues to grow and thrive, well, so do our friends over at Ironworkers Local Union 482. Many of the iconic landmarks we love in this city that make it so unique were actually built and constructed by Ironworkers Local Union 482, like the Pennybacker Bridge and DKR Stadium. And right now is the perfect time for you to become a member of Ironworkers Local 482 because they are hiring over 3,000 people for another big project they're constructing right here in Central Texas. They're hiring over 3,000 people. They're offering competitive wages, competitive benefits, pension plan. They even offer training for unskilled labor through their apprenticeship program. So right now, it's a perfect time for you to become a member of Ironworkers Local 482 if you're seeking exciting employment opportunities, or you need a refreshing career change, or maybe you want a new challenge, or you want to feel valued by your employer. You can become a valued member of this prestigious organization, Ironworkers Local 482. and take pride in the type of teamwork and craftsmanship that help shape the future of our great city. So go online today and apply at ironworkers482.org. That's ironworkers482.org. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a freak flag. Is a freak flag. Fake it till you make it. Ric Flair. Woo! 512 Friday edition of the Rodcast. 512 means my man Patrick. He takes jams from local bands and artists, plays those jams for us, and you have a chance to see these very talented folks live and in person here in the ATX. Who are we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is the Swift Drag, and they are playing tonight at Sonny's Backyard.
All right, I like that. Appreciate my man Patrick on a 512 Friday, always hooking us up, showing some love to live and local, which is what we are, live and local. All right, let's get to the Horn headlines here. We'll get updated, educated, and informed on all the top stories of the day, and then we'll get into the latest considerations for the Big 12. They are at this point looking at private equity as an option for the conference, and also looking at naming rights deals for the conference as well. We'll talk about what that means. Also, we'll preview the NBA Finals Game 4. We'll hear from Luka. We'll also have a Rangers report. Forgot about the Rangers report. So that's coming up here. So Rangers fans, you want to stick around. Also, we have Rod's Rant of the Day. And Rod's Rant will talk some Texas football, Pro Football Focus ranking the best secondaries in the country. I was a little surprised, but they have the Texas secondary ranked as one of the top 10 best secondaries. So we'll dive into that as well. But before we do, let's get updated, educated, and informed on all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars have agreed on a 5-year, $275 million contract extension on Thursday. The contract includes $200 million guaranteed and now puts Lawrence under contract till 2030. The $55 million average salary ties him with Joe Burrow for the top mark in that category in the NFL. In the NBA, the Celtics can win the NBA championship tonight in a sweep over the Mavs in Game 4 of the Finals. No team has ever come back from a 3-0 deficit in the NBA playoffs to win a series. The Mavs will try to avoid being the 10th team in NBA history to be swept in the Finals in the first since the Cavs in 2018. In Major League Baseball, the Astros will begin their series with the Tigers this evening, sending Hunter Brown to the mound, hoping to get a solid performance from the young pitcher against an early leader for the AL Cy Young, Tariq Skubal, who is 8-1 on the season with a 1.92 ERA. And the Rangers won their series with the Dodgers after a 3-1 victory last night. Wyatt Langford knocked in 2 runs in the game, and the Rangers pitching was solid, with Lorenzen making it 7 innings, only allowing 1 run on a solo homer, and the bullpen getting 6 strikeouts in the 2 innings pitched. The Rangers now move on to a big divisional series with the Mariners this weekend, and that is your Horn Headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn Headlines. Appreciate those. Like I said, we'll get to Rod's rant and get to the Rangers report. If we don't have time in this segment, we'll get to it coming up next segment. All right, let's first, though, talk about the Big 12 considering a naming rights deal for the Big 12 Conference. Now, I am a big fan of Brett Yormark. I said it before, Brett Yormark, he's going to bring a different mentality, a different attitude, different energy as a conference commissioner, because he was not someone who was a product really of the industry, a product of that industry. He had not been in college athletics. I mean, this is a guy that had been in professional sports, and he was in marketing, and that was really where his foundation was. All right. Now he's a commissioner, but as an executive, right? So he's into marketing, and coming from, Rock Nation, he's all about brand association and all about trying to modernize and trying to bring the cool factor back with certain brands. And he's trying to do that with the Big 12. So he's got them, having exhibition games for their basketball programs in Rucker Park. He's got artists coming to perform concerts at some of their postseason events, like the Big 12 basketball tournament. He's trying to combine a foodie culture with it. Remember, he's got different, when they do like the postseason tournaments, different foods representing each program and brand that's going to be there. Just coming with all these, he thinks they're great. He's got a partnership with WWE for the championship belt given to the MVP of the Big 12 football championship. It comes up with all these things. I can't name. He wants them to play games internationally, or at least outside the United States. He wants them to go to Mexico and play games. He wants them to play football and basketball games abroad, or at least outside the states. So he, in the 2 years or whatever that he's been there, he's been really active. And like he said from day one, this is a Brett Yormark quote, I've said from day one, we are open for business. So he treats it like a business. And this is another business move potentially for him. So the Big 12 Conference is seeking, or at least in discussions about selling the league's naming rights to different corporations right now, based on the Action Network. Brett McMurphy, there was a Brett McMurphy article, and Action Network also put it out there that the leading candidate right now for the new naming rights deal for the Big 12 is Allstate, that they are the leader. But they are also, said lead sources stress, this is not yet a done deal. Said the Big 12 also is considering a financial company for another financial company for its naming rights deal. So they got a financial company, they got Allstate in the running for this thing. They said the multi-year deal could earn the league between $30 to $50 million annually to be divided among its 16 league members. And I'll say this, I remember when, this was a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about how there were serious discussions being had about adding ads to jerseys in college football and college sports. There were serious discussions about naming rights for stadiums and fields, and we had the field actually, I believe, be approved. The NCAA approved naming rights for the field last week. So this stuff is happening fast, and I don't even know if they need approval to have a conference naming rights deal. I'm not sure how that works, but they will have one. Guys, everything is going to have a naming rights deal pretty soon. The money is just too easy. Well, you got to close a 20-something million financial gap if you are these big time college sports programs now, because of the revenue sharing that's inevitable after the antitrust lawsuits are settled and you have a new financial framework that includes revenue sharing. They got about $20 million that they got to find. Would that be about cutting expenses? That's why you're hearing about teams getting rid of their walk-on program, because any expense has got to go. They're going to cut salaries. They're probably going to end up, cutting a lot of jobs that they consider redundancies or whatever. There's even talk about them, and I've talked to some coaches, them cutting like the summer camps that they have for kids, because it may cost them more money than they actually make out of those summer camps. And yes, all for a talent evaluation too, but it's not worth it if you're only getting two to four kids out of the 200 or something that you're bringing in. It's more of an expense for them. They're talking about cutting those too. They are serious. This thing is about to become a big business, and big business, hey, they only look at the black and the red, right? That's really what they're looking at. They're not concerned about the culture, and they're not concerned about amateurism. They're not concerned about equality and making sure everything in fairness. All that stuff that's thrown out the window. So the naming rights deal is going to happen. I think stadium naming rights deals are going to happen soon or be approved soon. Conference naming rights, they've already got the field naming rights has been approved. And trust me, they'll have ads on jersey sales pretty soon too. It's just an easy way. If somebody wants to give you $50 million a year just to put their name on something, you take it because you need an extra 20-something million dollars a year, just so that you can close that financial gap of what's going to be revenue sharing. And you don't even know how that's going to look in the future. So teams are going to do this. This is another way that they're going to create new revenue and all across. So you're going to see it all across college sports. And I think the Big 12, I don't think the Big 12 will be the last conference to consider a naming rights deal. But they should be careful. They shouldn't get too cheesy.
Yeah.
Here in the article that I'm reading, it says the All-State 12 Conference is the leading new name,
which is horrible.
Or I think it said the Big All-State Conference has also been discussed. So these are some terrible names, Patrick.
It's awful. This is why I hate it. Is if I'm coming out and I want to go play, and you go, okay, I want to be in this school, and you go, so. But if you say, what were you an All-American? Were you all Big 12? No, I was all State. No, man, I was all Dr. Pepper. No, I was first team all Dr. Pepper, man. First team all State. That's reality of what it will be. First team all
conference. Just say you're first team all conference, but you're right.
But that's what I'm saying, is that's what it'll be. And it's like, that's the kind of thing where it starts to get into, just call it All State and then name the conference. So All State Big 12 or All State, whatever it doesn't have to be Big 12 anymore, but have a conference name, because then when it changes, you lose your entire identity when All State comes back in 5 years and renegotiates, and they go, well, are you going to change all of your branding, all of everything you do, because you're now All State. So we don't have to up our deal. We don't have to change anything. There is no bidding war, because if you do, you're now you're the State Farm 12 now. And that doesn't, it's a completely different conference, and it's going to confuse the marketplace.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's stupid. Don't lose your conference name. Just add whatever the sponsorship name is to the. It's like the bowl games, like Rose Bowl and Sugar Bowl. They get sponsorships, but they still keep the bowl. We know that. I'm with you on that. That'd be stupid. I don't like those ideas. I think you're right. Keep the Big 12, even if it's very lengthy. Because I think Brett Yarmark's all about making it something that rolls off the tongue. He's a marketing guy. He wants to roll off the tongue. He wants to make sure there's synchronicity with the name and all that. No. Forget about all that. You're right. Just keep the Big 12. And the reports are he doesn't like the Big 12 anyway, that he wants to change the name at one point anyway, and that he hasn't really found a way to change it. But that's not the way to do it. I agree. Keep your Big 12. Keep your name recognition. Just add the sponsorship, because you're right. In 5 years, it's going to be a different sponsor. Just like the bowl games, different sponsor. It happens to everybody. Naming rights in the NFL, I was like, it's going to be a different sponsor in 10 years. Not going to sign a 20-year deal for those.
No.
There's new leadership. Those companies are sold and stuff like that. So those naming rights deals, they only last for a certain amount of time. You still got to keep whatever your recognizable name is to the community. So don't just lose your identity just because you sign a naming rights deal. So I agree with you on that. The other deal here that the Big 12 is considering, the naming rights deal, I think that's going to get done. Seems like that's way down the road. This one, I think they're just having a conversation about it. But it's something that we brought up a couple of months ago, actually. Maybe just last month, we brought this up about private capital and private equity firms now making themselves available to college programs and to college conferences so that they can help these programs, once again, close the financial gap that they're going to have when revenue sharing becomes the law of the land, and they're going to have to come up with $20 extra million to share with their student athletes. How is that going to work, and where you're going to come with the money from? Slashing and cutting is only going to get you so far. And one of the ways that teams were, at least that is reported, they're thinking about closing that gap is with private capital and private equity firms. And private equity means they would have a stake in your that investment would give them a stake in your conference, and that's what the Big 12 is considering. They're considering selling an equity stake of 20% to a private equity firm for up to $1 billion. This comes from CBS Sports. Dennis Dodd reports that CVC Capital Partners, based out of Luxembourg, they are the possible partner, and that in addition to an infusion of 9 to 10 figures, the Big 12 would get access to CVC's investment services and clients, so they can generate more revenue with ad sales and endorsements and brand association, things like that. So if they're saying that they'll give them $1 billion for 20%, essentially they're valuing the conference between $5 and $6 billion. And I wonder, and I said this earlier, I wonder if they're undervaluing the Big 12, if that is indeed the number that they're thinking about. And the reason I say that is because if you go, remember the Pac-12 considered this a few years ago before their ultimate dissolution, before they're being dissolved. They actually considered this. The Pac-12 had an offer on the table in 2018 for $1 billion for 15% of the conference. It was from a private equity firm. They valued each team, I think, at $555 million. I think with inflation, that's probably like $700 million in 2024. But if the Big 12 accepts the $800 million to $1 billion for their 20% each school, essentially will be valued less than that. So I wonder if they need to go back to the negotiating table, if they are going to do this private equity deal, and maybe ask for more money for the 20% of the conference, and then value the conference overall at, like I said, something more than what $5 billion what it is right now.
Yeah.
And ask for a little bit more money. And I still don't know how that works. I don't know if equity and stake in the conference, which the conference is made up of conference members, which are the schools, does that give you stake in the programs? Like, I don't know how that would work.
Yeah.
And if you made a deal with the programs, I get it, but this is with the conference, and the conference is made up of the members. So how would it work that you get? Yeah, I wonder how that works out.
Yeah. And it feels like the thing, you're just going to start getting phone calls from people where you're going to make a football decision or make a conference decision. They're like, oh, well, we own 20%. So we actually have a vote that we want to vote that you do this. So we don't care about the product. We don't care. We will just want to water it down and make more money, because that's all we're based in. So and it just gets to where it waters it down and waters it down and waters it down. And, well, you know what? We actually think that, there's too many schools in the conference, or we need more schools. So go out and get 14 more schools. Like, well, that's not how this works. No, go get 14 more schools. Like, that's what we think we should vote. We should get more schools in. You go merge with the Mountain West. You're like, well, that's a bunch of schools that are they don't bring in money. No, just do that though.
Our books say that it'll work out.
Yes.
The figures said works. You're right. These are people that they're not into sports at all. And you're going to ask them to have, now, like you said, they're going to have a say in some of the decisions that are made if you go that route with private equity. I think they should go with the private capital. I think because then they don't have a stake in it. Yeah. And you can just owe the money back at whatever interest they decide. The capital is probably the better way to go than the equity. That sounds like you could end up in a Red Lobster situation. All right. All right. There you go. So let's get to the Rangers report here, and then we'll push Rod's rant to next segment. Oh, also, I want to get to previewing the Mavs and the Celtics game forward. We'll push that too. But first, let's get the Rangers report for my friends at Texas Truck and Trailer.
The Rangers report is brought to you by Texas Truck and Trailer.
All right, a big win for the Rangers at Dodger Stadium, and that was a big win for Bruce Bochy. How about this? It was win number 2,126 for Bruce Bochy. He's ninth most in Major League history now. He broke a tie with Hall of Famer Joe McCarthy, and now he's ninth all time. So congrats to him. That's big time. Also, this was something interesting. So the Dodgers, Mike, and by the way, you got to give props to Michael Lorenzen. He was fantastic for the Rangers. If you go look at last night, 7 innings pitched, gets the win, run allowed. But how about this little factoid? So Michael Lorenzen, apparently teams have been, and I'm sure this is something analytical, teams have been rolling out left-handed batters against him, trying to shake him up. Even though the numbers say he's been great versus lefties, they still been throwing out lefties versus him when he's pitching. And the Dodgers rolled out 5 left-handed batters against Mike Lorenzen, and that's most teams continue, he said, to do this, even though he's been great against them. In 2024, versus left-handed batters, they're batting one. Here's their slash line versus Mike Lorenzen. They're batting 103 versus. Yeah, it's crazy. Actually, I take that back. They're batting 100. That's the updated one. This comes from Jared Sandler, and Jared Sandler is the radio TV broadcaster for the Rangers. He said the slash line now, Dodger lefties went 1 for 13 against Lorenzen, and lefties are now slashing 100, 213, 118, and 331 against him in 2024. He's been phenomenal versus lefties. Righties, not so much, but against lefties, man, he's been killing them. So that's a nice little factor for Rangers fans out there. Also, Wyatt Langford, he's starting to heat up. Wyatt Langford now has 13 hits and 8 RBIs over his last 12 games with 5 multi-hit efforts. Langford went 2 for 2 with 2 RBIs and 2 stolen bases last night. And he's the first Ranger with 2 hits, 2 RBIs, and 2 stolen bases in a game this season. The man's been filling up the stat sheet. So there you go. Wyatt Langford playing really well right now. So that's there you go. Update on the Rangers.
And just the Corey Seager update we'll give you is that he did play in one game there, hit a home run, but sat out the game yesterday. So dealing with that hamstring injury, and they're trying to play it. So he's played though. So he is. It's not an injury that's clearly keeping him completely out, but he did sit out yesterday. So I think they're easing him back in, and they wanted. I think he really wanted to play against the Dodgers as well, so they let him go for one game, and of course he had a home run in that game. So keeping it going, still playing good, but maybe give him. They're trying to ease him back in, because you don't want him to miss a long period of time.
Exactly. And you don't want to take a chance with those soft tissue injuries like that, man, because once you re-injure it, then it takes even longer for it to heal. So you just want to take it slow. And the season's so long. I mean, why would you rush them? There's no need for it. All right, that's our Rangers report brought to you by Texas Truck and Trailer.
The Rangers Report is brought to you by Texas Truck and Trailer, your premier truck accessory dealer.
All right, we're going to discuss the Mavs game 4 versus the Celtics. Can they at least make it somewhat interesting and not get swept? Hopefully, they got enough pride to do that. We'll discuss that and hear from Luca on the other side. Also, we'll go into Rod's rant, actually, and we'll discuss the top secondaries in college football. And yes, your Longhorns are ranked in the top 10. We'll talk about what the Longhorns must improve on to make themselves a top 10 secondary next season. All that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn Rod Vapors, coming back on the Horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into Rod's rant of the day. I want to discuss this ranking from Pro Football Focus, Max Chadwick. He does a great job as a college football data scientist, I guess, for Pro Football Focus. And they ranked the top 10 secondaries ahead of the 2024 season. And the ones at the top would not surprise you. Ohio State's the top. They got the best safety, Caleb Downs, via the transfer portal from Alabama. They were already loaded. With a lot of high-level NFL caliber players in that secondary. They only lost one starter from the secondary last year, so Ohio State's going to be one of the better secondaries. Even though Iowa lost Cooper DeJean, they are ranked number 2 on this list. They got a great secondary culture there in Iowa. Iowa's been putting out really good DBs for a long time. Number 3 on this list, Notre Dame Fighting Irish. On this list at number 3. Also points out Michigan. Longhorns will play Michigan. They have the best cornerback in the country in Will Johnson. That guy's going to be a top 10 pick at cornerback. So that secondary, Rod Moores is safety for Michigan. I like a lot. So Michigan is the number 4 secondary on this list. Number 5 is Oregon. Remember, Oregon signed Jabbar Muhammad. He was the transfer portal cornerback out of Washington that Texas really wanted. He actually visited Texas, ended up signing with the Oregon Ducks. They also signed Kobe Savage out of K-State. They brought in a lot of guys via the transfer portal. They lost 3 starters to the NFL, but brought in 3 starters via the transfer portal, so the Oregon Ducks going to be just fine. But they got the Longhorns ranked at number 6 on this list, ahead of Georgia. They're saying Texas got a better secondary than the Georgia Bulldogs, who the Longhorns will play. Better than the Wisconsin Badgers, who are at number 8 on this list. Better than the Sooners, who are at number 9 on this list. By the way, the Sooners had 20 interceptions last year, 20 interceptions and 69 passes defended. That secondary got their hands on a lot of footballs. Number 10 on this list, behind the Sooners at 9, they have the Arizona Wildcats. The Longhorns really wanted Tacario Davis, the 6'2 corner, 6'2", 6'3", actually, freakish. I think it's like close to 6'4", so 6'3 corner, Tacario Davis out of Arizona. That guy's going to be a first-round pick, too. Texas tried to get him, but he ended up staying at Arizona with my former DB coach, Dwayne Aquino, who is now the defensive coordinator there. So that's where the Longhorns are at number 6. Here's what the excerpt says about that Longhorn secondary. It says Texas returns 4 defensive backs who played at least 300 snaps in 2023. Jahdae Barron, Malik Muhammad, Derek Williams, and Gavin Holmes. Muhammad is a rising star in college football after starting at cornerback for the Longhorns as a true freshman. His 79.9 coverage grade ranks 2nd among all Big 12 cornerbacks, and his 20% forced incompletion rate placed 5th. Texas also adds Clemson's Andrew Makuba from the transfer portal. He ranks 7th among all Power 5 cornerbacks in 2023 in yards allowed per coverage snap. Makuba is expected to start at safety for the Longhorns in 2024. He was playing nickel, so that's why they classified him as a cornerback. He was playing nickel, but Dabo Swinney said he can play any position in that secondary. He can play corner, he can play nickel, he can play safety. He's going to play safety for the Longhorns. So you do get an upgrade at safety as a coverage specialist. Derek Williams was your best coverage safety last year. He should be much better this year. Love Jahdae Barron. Just point out Jahdae Barron is your premier playmaker, 2nd in on the team in 2022 in splash plays, havoc plays, led the team in havoc plays last year. He should pick up just where he left off too in that secondary. Malik Muhammad is a star. I think that dude could be one of the best coverage guys in all of the SEC. I really mean it. And he's got some ball hawk in him, so I expect him to have double-digit havoc plays next season when it's all said and done. So I'll throw this out there, though. I've been talking about this secondary. I think the secondary can be good, especially the frontline guys. The frontline guys in the secondary, the starters I just mentioned. Now, the cornerback spot opposite Malik Muhammad, whether it be Javion Cole or whether that's going to be Gavin Holmes, I think that is something that gives me pause. Maybe that stresses me out a little bit. But I do think the frontline starters for the Longhorns, I love 4 out of those 5 stars. I love them. I think they're really good players, guys who got NFL futures. The problem is Texas wants to rotate. So your frontline starters still only going to play 60 to 65% of the snaps. They want to rotate guys. And if I was an offensive coordinator, I've said this before, I would just wait on Texas to make their wholesale rotations, and then I would attack the guys who are not the frontline starters. We know this happens. I brought up the fact that Kalen DeBoer did it in the bowl game versus Texas when it was a 4th down conversion, and Kalen DeBoer had called a timeout. He had his offense on the field, then he had his punt team on the field, and they called the timeout. So he's kind of playing these mind games, trying to figure out whether he wanted to go for it or whether he wanted to punt. And I think he was just waiting to see if Texas was going to put their D tackles on the field to Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy, or if they were going to put out Alfred Collins and Vernon Broughton. they put out Collins and Broughton, or at least they put out two that weren't Byron Murphy and T'Vondre Sweat, and then he decided to go for it. You put out Sweat and Murphy, he probably punched that ball. So I think some coaches, smart ones, are looking at the rotations of Texas and saying, well, I'm just going to save some of my special plays for the rotation of players, and then I have a better chance at success against those guys, because there's a reason that they're not the starters. They're not as good as starters. If they were, they'd be the starters. All right, it's just that simple. And so I know that happens. That's why I was recommending more like NBA lineup changes. Like, you should, instead of wholesale rotations, just do different lineups, piecemeal substitutions here and there, try to find different combinations that are effective rather than wholesale rotations of guys to make it easier. So that's number one. That's what I would do. Just try to avoid clever coaches attacking your backups and your second string guys. But also, there are certain concepts. If this secondary is going to take a step, I think the edge pressure is going to help. Last year, they were top 10 in the Power 5 in pressure rate created, but it was interior pressures. T'Vondre Sweat, Byron Murphy. Now that pressure is going to be coming from the edges. So the hope is that edge pressure maybe gets home a little bit more in terms of sacks and tackles for loss and negative plays, but also maybe that affects the quarterback in a way that is advantageous to the secondary and the pass defense. But there are four things that this team, not four things, two of the four, right? They have to find solutions for at least half of these four issues. And I don't know which two they're going to try to master or solve, but they have to try to solve these issues because they're borderline systemic now, because I've been tracking these things since 2022. All right. So if something happens once, you can classify it as an outlier. Something happens twice, it's like, all right, that may be coincidence. Something happens like 3 times. Okay, that's a pattern, that's a trend. Right. And then now we start working. So if it happens again this year, then we're talking about a trend. We're talking about a pattern and a trend. All right. You go from 2022, 2023. And what I've recognized is that they're having issues defending the same concepts in pass defense. And it's the same 4 concepts. First of all, it's the deep ball. They don't defend the deep ball very well. Last year, the Power 5 quarterbacks completed 42% of their deep balls, which passes 20 yards or more, against Texas in 2023. That was the case. The same thing happened in the Big 12 title game. The only thing Oklahoma State could do was throw the deep ball. They were 3 of 7 on deep balls. That does not include a PI. That does not include a non-called PI that probably should have been called. And then there was one where the quarterback just missed a wide open guy running deep because he just overthrew him. I mean, those are deep balls that could have changed that game. Oklahoma State's not going to win, but it just shows you even Oklahoma State, as inept as they were offensively, they were still able to chunk the ball deep. And we saw what happened in the game versus Washington. Washington was 6 of 8, 75% on passes 20 yards or more down the field, 2 touchdowns. Y'all remember it. I don't need to go through all the details of it. And in the spring game, you'd have thought, okay, Texas in the spring game definitely worked on that, even though all your frontline starters weren't playing together. Deep ball, 20 yards or more down the field, they allowed over a 45% completion rate on passes 20 yards or more down the field in the spring game. 4 touchdowns and almost 25 yards per attempt. So it was an issue last season. It was an issue in 2022. It was an issue in 2023. An issue in the spring game. It can't be an issue in 2024 coming up. Got to fix it. Got to have a panic plan when the ball is thrown deep. Are you going to play the hands? You're going to play the eyes? Are you going to play through the receiver to the ball? You're going to play the ball? Are you in phase? You out of phase? You got to figure that out. Inside breaking routes is another thing that kind of I've been keeping up with that is troublesome for this secondary. And I think this can be solved too with just more leverage. If you just talk about your leverage, your position, all right, as a defensive back pre-snap, you can deter a lot of the inside breaking routes just from your alignment pre-snap and your leverage pre-snap. I think Texas opens up the inside breaking routes. I think too often times they're head up to outside leverage, and Sark says the coverage dictates the leverage. But if I'm a player, sometimes you got to take it upon yourself to go solve the problem and work within the framework of the defense. And if they're telling you you should have outside leverage, and yet they've been killing you on inside breaking routes all game, maybe you want to cheat. And it happens. I told a story earlier about Charles Omenihu, who saw Texas Tech quarterback go into center, and based on his film study, he knew Texas Tech never went under center, and when they did, it was usually a quarterback sneak. So he abandoned his responsibility on the edge and went inside to the interior gap on a 4th down so that he can stop the quarterback sneak, because he knew They run the quarterback sneak. They never get him to center. He didn't have time to communicate that to his teammates. He didn't want to call a timeout. He just took it upon himself to go solve the damn problem. So now as a player, you got to go solve the problem. And then you can tweak the scheme later, but go solve the problem at hand, which is stop the inside breaking routes. So inside breaking routes in 2022, if you go look at those inside breaking routes, you're talking about a first down touchdown rate of over 40%, over 9 yards per attempt, explosive play rate over 20%. In 2023, same thing, over 9 yards per attempt. You go look at the money down conversion rate. That's third and fourth down. You're over 50% conversion rate when a quarterback targets inside breaking routes on money down. To your explosive play rate, also upwards of 21%. Got to fix that. I think a lot of it can be fixed with alignment and leverage, but you got to solve that. The other concept is targets to closely clustered groups of receivers. Anytime you put receivers close together, tight twins, tight trips, guys with condensed sets or compressed sets, flex, reduced splits, triangle trips or the tripod trips, however you want to say it. Closely clustered groups of receivers. You can do it in a number of different ways. Even in the spring game, we saw it. The first touchdown that Arch Manning had to DeAndre Moore, the deep pass. They motioned in. Sark loves it. Motion in to tight twins. And then force that defensive back to have to process that in whatever coverage he's in. Terrence Brooks did not process it well. Instead of king number 2, he was king number 1. He went with number 1. Number 2 ends up wide open for a touchdown. Texas has struggled defending those types of concepts ever since really in 2022. So in 2022, it was Bama that used a lot of those bunch concepts against Texas, and they killed them. Over 80% completion percentage when they were targeting bunch. Iowa State also killed Texas using a lot of bunch sets, a lot of closely clustered groups of receivers in 2022. They didn't win that game, but it was a big part of their game plan, and I think some teams have figured that out. And then the Alamo Bowl against Washington, they figured it out against Texas to target to bunch formation. They were really good. They were really good on money downs. Now, their completion percentage was actually pretty low, below 60%, but their money down conversion rate, third and fourth downs, when they were targeting receivers in bunch formation, closely clustered groups of receivers, guys, they were over 70%. That's a nice conversion rate, even if you don't have the efficiency with it. Same thing with targets to bunch in 2023. You're talking about completion percentage, really high, over 11 yards per attempt, explosive play rate over 20%, money down conversion rate over 50%. You got to figure out a way to defend or figure out solutions, build in solutions and fail safes to defend closely clustered groups of receivers. Now, if you're asking me as a DB mind, that's something that's really tough. Even in the NFL, they have a hard time defending that. You got to be hive-minded. You can tango it where you can play inside, outside cuts in it, but it's just really hard because teams are getting really, really creative at being able to throw off your keys when they are in those closely clustered groups of receivers when you have to pass off receivers in coverage. So that's tough even for NFL guys. Definitely going to be tough for college kids. And so the other formation or concept that's really tough on Texas has been empty formation. By the way, this is hell on everybody, especially if you got a dual threat quarterback defending empty formation, all receivers available. Ball comes out quick, so sack rates drop out of empty formation, and Texas has had a tough time defending it. Actually give Jeff Traylor a lot of credit. You got to face him again this year. UTSA was the one that really exposed Texas in this area a couple of years ago in 2022 when they had like 20 plus plays running empty. Remember, they played keep away and kept the ball away from Texas for most of the first half. They were doing that, running a lot of empty formation, over 9 yards per attempt. Completion percentage was really high, over 70%, running those empty formation. Then Bama copied the recipe. The only reason Bama beats Texas in 2022 is because they went to one specific adjustment in the second half. They started running more empty formation, and it worked out for them. That's basically the one adjustment Texas was not ready for, and they were ineffective against. And it ended up being a big part of why Bama won the game. 90% completion rate for Bryce Young out of those empty sets. Then K-State copied it in 2022. They were really successful for it, really successful with that versus Texas. And then in 2023, it continued to be an issue. U of H. They were over 80% completion percentage targeting out of empty formation, over 9 yards per attempt versus TCU. Same thing. They were really effective on money downs out of empty formation, being able to convert those over a 50% clip. And then against Washington, same thing, over 11 yards per attempt, but the first down rate for Texas in that situation, or at least over 60%. So empty formation, gives Texas a lot of problems. Deep balls give Texas a lot of problems. Closely clusters groups of receivers and inside breaking routes. I think you can take away the inside breaking routes relatively easily with leverage and with alignment. I think you can take away the deep ball too, just having a panic plan, knowing whether you're going to be positioned enough to play the eyes, play the hands, play the ball, play through the man to the ball, right? In phase or you out of phase. Targets to closely cluster groups of receivers is just a pain, you know what? And empty formation is just conceptually, schematically, strategically a pain, and you know what? They haven't really solved it at the NFL level. They just kind of take chances and either they go all out blitz or they drop everybody back and only blitz 3, only rush 3. And targets to bunch, like I said, really, really tough to decipher that as well. So if I am Texas, the two you got to try to solve the inside breaking routes, solve the deep ball. That's half of your issues. Your pass defense will go from being one of the worst in college football last year to being one of the best. Will it be a top 10 secondary? That is a lot. I'm not really sure about that. All right, so there you go. That's Texas Pro Football Focus ranking of the 6th best secondary in the country. All right, we got time for this Luka sound. Yeah, because Luka, we got a couple of minutes here. So Luka, after game 3, he got a chance to sit down with Malika Andrews, and she asked him about him falling out of game 3, and asked him about his antics, I should say, behavior in game 3, and it was something he was kind of disappointed in. Here's Luka with Malika Andrews.
So Kyrie said after the game, what did you say to Luka? And he said, at this point, you just kind of have to give him a hug and tell him it's okay. But did you feel like you let your teammates down?
Yeah, of course. I mean, like I say, it wasn't the smartest thing to do, especially in this situation. It's the finals. You got to give everything. A little tie out there. But yeah, Kyrie's been great for me, just having him on here.
So what did you say to your teammates afterwards?
It's my bad. Can't do that, especially in NBA finals. Regular season is a little bit different, but can't really do that in the finals.
All right, there you go. So he understands. Can't do that in the finals. Yeah, you have to be available to your team. Sports cliche, annoying one. The number one ability is availability. He needs to be available.
That's where it started.
Yeah,
but yeah,
that's how I started.
No, that's like he got a lot of flack for this, which he deserves. That it's his fault. Like it is, and the officials screwed up too. But it is Luka's fault. He can't be in that. He can't put himself in that situation. But at the same part, you're like, this is a kid. This is 25 years old. He's growing. He is, he's ahead of his age so much that I think that was the deal when I was trying to figure out why guys were so upset and why everybody was so like when Doris Burke was so upset and why Brian Windhorst and all them were like passionately upset with Luka Doncic. And I think the reality wasn't so much that they don't like Luka. I think it was they were disappointed. They were like, we really wanted you to be the guy. Like we wanted you to somehow will this into being a series. And now you're not even going to be the guy to do it because you have these faults. But it's frustrating to see that happen. But at the same part, he is human and he got frustrated in the game. And that's what I'll say. I'll put some of it on Jason Kidd. If you want to be the coach, you have to be able to see him getting frustrated and talk him down. If you're Kyrie and you're the only veteran, it's one of the reasons why you probably want to add more veterans to this roster in the offseason is because you need to have other people that when he starts to go and starts to be that way, have some other people that can go over to him and talk him down a little bit and talk him off the cliff. And like, hey, man, you're going down a bad path right now. Like, flip it around. Let's smile. Let's remember we're playing basketball. Let's get back into it. And I think that would help him out some. And, it would help him out in this series if he had that guy on the sideline to, hey, man, it's okay. It's okay. I get it. Yeah. I get the refs. Yell at me for a minute, get it off your chest, and then we'll go back out there. You can't let this get you. But we did see, he said he wants to be smiling Luka in game 4 tonight.
It might be too late, but at least they can win one.
Hey, don't get swept, man.
Luka.
Don't get swept.
Don't get swept. And what did you say the number was? How many teams have been swept?
We were the 10th, but it's one of those LeBron haters stats they love. LeBron's been swept twice.
Oh, yeah, by the Spurs once.
By the Spurs when he was really young, and then by the Warriors.
By the Warriors. Wow. Man, I didn't realize that. Yeah, he gets there so much, though.
I know.
He's gotten there so much. He's gotten there so many times. But getting swept, I admit that is especially embarrassing, but he's gotten there so damn much. Okay, yeah. No, good stuff there. Okay, real quick before we go to break here, how about this little nugget of news? It's comes from Shams Sharani. I thought it was a fake account, but it's the real Shams account. And he is claiming, you might know more about this, that the Illinois transfer Coleman Hawkins, a 6'10" forward, has committed to play for K-State in what's believed to be the most lucrative NIL college basketball deal ever. $2 million.
Yeah,
Negotiated from a collective by Nate Conley of Court. I don't know, it's Court 14, I think is what it is, and Aaron Turner of Veris Basketball. Damn. $2 million. All right. That's a game. K-State. I didn't know K-State was doing it like that.
No, but
K-State's trying to assert themselves in the NIL space. That's wild. That's $2 million. That's a lot, and that's a big money, man.
I mean, it's usually one or two people that they probably have there that are big basketball fans, and needing a big man is a thing in the Big 12 especially. And so I get that the bidding war is up there. When you're the last guy out there, when you're the last big man available in the transfer portal, you're gonna command some money.
Yeah. No, you're right about that. That number that stood out to me. I know it's not a topic we were discussing, but I figure that's something that at least we all need to be updated on. Those dollar figures in NIL are about to be crazy. If K-State's paying that for players, K-State? Is this on a blue blood basketball program? What the?
Well, and the reality is some of these other schools, they'll pay two players a lot, and then everybody else gets a lot less. Yeah, and so the budget's roughly the same at some of these other schools. But instead of saying, well, Texas is going to pay 4 guys or 5 guys $600,000, which is more than $2 million.
Yeah,
they're going to pay this guy $2 million. They're going to pay another guy $1 million, and then they're going to pay the rest of the team like $200,000, $100,000, and fill out the roster.
Yeah, no, that number was just kind of eye-popping to me. All right, we come back. We'll play Who Said That. That's when Patrick plays pieces of audio, and based on the context clues or the audio that is played, hopefully you can recall and identify who said that. We'll come back and play that on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a 512 Friday. That's when Patrick plays jams from local bands and artists, very talented human beings that you can catch live right here in the ATX. Who we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is Big Bill, and they're doing their album release today and tomorrow at Chess Club.
Nice. Double whammy. I like that. All right, so I appreciate Patrick and appreciate all the very talented musicians he's featuring on a 512 Friday. All right, time to play Who Said That. That's when Patrick plays some bits of audio, sometimes from the sports world, sometimes beyond the sports world. And hopefully, based on the context clues or based on the familiarity of the voice, you can identify who said that.
I've never told nobody this story. Like Like my pop had passed when I was playing in San Antonio.
Sorry.
I had called the GM like, yo, bro, I'm about to fly home tonight. I'm about to try to get a plane out of here. I gotta get home. My pops just passed, right? So I called the GM. I didn't want nobody to know. I didn't want to be all in the media. Bro, literally, bro, 90 seconds later, I hear a knock at the door. Bro, it's Pop. Bro, Pop sat in the room with me and cried with me for about 2 hours.
That's real.
Like, you know what I mean? He's like, man, I'm not leaving until you leave. And that just showed like the person who he was. You know what I mean? Like,
so he took the coach out of it.
Bro,
I'm your guy now, right?
Man, he sat there and cried with me, bro. And what's crazy? He'll be mad at me telling that story because he never want nobody. He don't want credit, bro.
Nah,
he never want credit.
Wow, that's powerful. I don't know who that is. Who is that?
That is DeMar DeRozan talking about when he was playing the Spurs and his father passed away. And Pop was the one who came in, sat and cried with him.
That's powerful. It is. He just sat and cried with him.
Yeah.
Now we talk about, first of all, men have trouble crying anyway.
Yeah.
Just, you know, I mean, men, I always say the reason men die before women is also because men don't cry.
Yeah.
You will find a woman every now and then just crying for no reason, watching the movie. You're like, what's wrong? I was like, I just needed a good cry. I'm glad I got that out. Woo.
Yeah.
Me and my girls got together. We had a good cry together. I'm like, what the hell's wrong with y'all? But you need that emotional release sometimes. You just build it up. It just turns into cancer and all types of other physical afflictions. And you're like, well, I ain't cried in 30 years. Like, well, you need to cry. You know what I mean? It's why you got, it's why you got issues. You know what I'm saying? Why you got some physical issues because you don't really have that release. Ladies have it, man. I'm glad. That's powerful. That really is. That's deep.
Yeah, no, it gives that story of there's been a few that come out this season, and after Pop's had a couple bad seasons, and people are talking about, well, maybe it's passed him by. You hear stories like that, and you're like, that's why Pop is who he is and why he's so well respected in the league. Is because there's a lot of stories like that.
Pass him. Maybe the game's passing by. Somebody who's that kind of connection with other human beings, it'll never pass them by.
Exactly.
Because no matter what generation you're dealing with, that type of empathy, that type of connection, that type of, just humanity, it won't go out of style. Yeah. He's good. Thank you, Patrick, for that. And thank you for everything you do, brother. Have a great week. Hope you feel better.
Happy Father's Day to you, Rod.
Yeah, I forgot. Oh man, I should be getting those this weekend. This is my first one. Thank you, Patrick.
Happy Father's Day, Rod.
I appreciate that, man. I forgot all about that. All right, now I'm hyped. Got a happy Father's Day. My first ever Happy Father's Day for my man Patrick. Happy Father's Day to all you guys out there as well. Remember, the revolution will not be televised. We'll be talking about it right here on the Rodcast. We love you guys. We mean that. Take care of yourselves, but more importantly, take care of each other. Have a great weekend. Until next week, same time, same channel. Hook 'em and peace.